Chapter 45. Delta Orgy began to move back and forth. With a thoughtful look in her eyes, she asked, "What is Tian Yi's attitude towards you? Do you think he is sincere in wanting you to join Tian Yi society?" "No. Then his target will definitely be Mu Feng," Delta Orgy said in a deep voice. "Why?" A meaningful smile appeared on Delta Orgy's face and said, "Because many people know that Mu Feng and I are sisters. Tian, you will deliberately let Mu Feng die in your hands, and then I will definitely kill you. He also wants to borrow my hand to get rid of you." "As close as sisters?" Lung Shiqi listened to Gusan's words and didn't care about anything else, but glanced at her strangely. He thought to himself, "I'm afraid it's plastic." Feeling Lung Shiqi's gaze, Delta Orgy did not care and continued, "Why don't we beat him at his own game? Tian Yi will definitely make his move 5 days later. When the cultivation resources erupt, I will hide nearby and not show my face, allowing his plan to proceed smoothly." "You mean Mu Feng?" Lung Shiqi said as he made a throat-slitting gesture. Delta Orgy turned sideways, pondered for a moment, and a ruthless look flashed across her eyes, and said, "Only by killing her can Tian Yi think that everything is going smoothly, and only then can he completely let down his guard against you." After saying this, Delta Orgy's body was full of gloomy coldness. Lung Shiqi frowned, feeling that the Delta Orgy in front of him seemed a little unfamiliar, and asked tentatively, "But she is after all a pure spirit realm. Are you willing?" Delta Orgy suddenly changed the topic and asked, "Lung Shiqi, I have more than 20 spirit cultivators of the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm under me. Do you know why they have been unable to break through to the pure spirit realm?" Hearing this, Lung Shiqi's face showed a thoughtful expression, and then he said 2 words, "Cultivation method." "That's right, all the cultivation methods are in my hands. They rely on the introductory spirit chi art, and do not know how to open up the Qi Si. It is almost impossible for them to break through to the pure spirit realm. In the next few days, I will find 3 more people to pass down the cultivation method, and after this matter, it won't be long before 3 capable pure spirit realm warriors appear under my command." Since the words were already so clear, Lung Shiqi's words nodded slightly and did not say anything. "Do you think I've changed?" Gusan suddenly asked faintly. "People change. There is nothing bad about it." "You are indeed very suitable to lead a force," Lung Shiqi said, waving his hand. Delta Orgy turned around and stared at Lung Shiqi. The coldness on her face disappeared without a trace, and asked in a low voice, "Don't you think I'm too ruthless?" "This is Blood Mist Island. There's nothing wrong with being ruthless. I just hope you don't let it get to your head." After saying that, Lung Shiqi's palm pressed down, and his body sank into the ground and left. Under the blood-red sky, Tian Yi was injured all over, but he ignored it and ran with all his strength, because he knew that once he stopped, he would die without a doubt. Vaguely, he seemed to hear footsteps coming from behind. Gradually, the footsteps were getting closer and closer, closer and closer. Tian Yi shouted at the top of his lungs, as if he had stimulated the strength of his whole body, and his speed was actually faster. Caw-caw. However, at this time, he suddenly heard a burst of loud and ear-piercing crows. People said that crows were ominous. He hurriedly turned his head and saw a ferocious purple crow had already pounced behind him. The purple crow's sharp claws tore off a piece of flesh from his back. And not only that, a layer of purple juice appeared on the injured area and was constantly corroding his wound. Tian Yi howled and fell to the ground, looking at the purple crow in horror, and his lips trembled from the pain. A rank 1 monster. Ziyu, come back." A black figure walked over, and with a wave of his arm, the crow obediently flew to the black figure's shoulder. Lung Shiqi lightly patted Ziyu's head. This was the first time he saw Ziyu fight with someone. Its speed was very fast, its claws were very sharp, and it was also corrosive. This kind of combat power was considered high among rank 1 monsters. Tian Yi saw Ziyu and Lung Shiqi's intimate actions, and his eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. However, it was immediately replaced by endless hatred. Dark Crow, good technique, you hit it well. It's okay. The main thing is that you're not smart enough. Lung Shiqi said as he approached. Oh, then you chased after me just to humiliate me? Winner takes all, I lost, just kill me. Ji Tiany's expression showed a bit of shame and anger. Lung Shiqi stepped forward, and in a few flashes, he was right in front of Ji Tiany. Ji Tiany subconsciously resisted, but who knew that Lung Shiqi's hand twisted left and right, like a vine coiling around Ji Tiany's arm. Then, with a crack sound, Ji Tiany's left arm joint was dislocated. This is the vine twisting technique. Ji Tiany endured the pain and shouted in shock. That's right. Lung Shiqi then dislocated the joints of his legs, completely cutting off any hope of Ji Tiany's counterattack. Impossible. You clearly took the gold severing blade. The vine twisting technique has never been taught to outsiders. How did you learn it? I have an eidetic memory, right? Aren't you asking too many questions? Please understand your current situation. With your injuries, you'll bleed to death in no time. Lung Shiqi was also a bit helpless and didn't want to dwell on this issue. Ha! Ji Tiany suddenly laughed, and when he laughed, it tore at his wounds, causing more blood to flow. You chased after me, controlled me, but didn't kill me. It's nothing more than wanting to get something from me. If you kneel down and beg me, maybe I'll be happy and give it to you. Ha ha, cough, cough. Ji Tiany knew that he didn't have long to live, and said crazily, then coughed up another mouthful of blood. So you're not stupid? Give me the wave-breaking fist, and I'll give you a quick death. Lung Shiqi said lightly. Wave-breaking fist? Ha ha, so it's the wave-breaking fist. Dark Crow, you think you're smart. Why would you say something so stupid? Give me a quick death? I don't have much time left anyway. I might as well die. Why would I give you the wave-breaking fist? Ji Tiany seemed to have seen through life and death, and looked like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. That's true, but aren't you afraid that I'll torture you? Scared? Why would I be scared of you? Come at me if you have the guts. The harder you hit, the faster I'll die. I have to thank you. Ji Tiany's face was twisted as he shouted, and a bit of bloodthirst appeared. Lung Shiqi shrugged slightly, and then his hands flew, quickly forming a few spirit seals. Then, a palm-sized dark red circle of light appeared in front of Lung Shiqi's palm. A slender blood-red centipede appeared in the circle of light, and the centipede was still twisting its body as if it was alive. Great heavens will saw all of Lung Shiqi's actions. Gradually, he seemed to have thought of something. His eyes grew bigger and bigger as he shook his head nonstop. He muttered to himself like a madman. Impossible, impossible, impossible. Lung Shiqi's eyes narrowed, and the spirit seal in his hand changed, and the blood-red centipede turned into a blood-red light that drilled into Ji Tiany's body. No. Chapter 46. No. Great Will screamed in fear, but his voice soon turned into a scream of agony. At this moment, the blood-red centipede was ceaselessly gnawing at his flesh, meridians, and internal organs within his body. Such pain was not something a human could endure. Great Will's body began to twitch. Red and white liquid flowed out of his mouth. I'll talk. Not long after, Great Will used all his strength to say these 3 words. Lung Shiqi made a spiritual seal, stopping the blood centipede from moving. Great Will lay on the ground like a pile of mud, his body occasionally twitching. Dictate. Lung Shiqi tore off a piece of relatively clean clothing from Great Will's body and dipped it in the blood on the ground, looking like a primary school student taking notes seriously. Then, Ji Tiany recited the mnemonic chant of the Level 2 spiritual technique, Wave-Breaking Fist. Until Lung Shiqi saw a system notification, he nodded in satisfaction. At this moment, Great Will seemed to have lost all his strength and hope, his eyes staring straight at the sky. However, there was no moon in the sky, nor was there a starry sky. There was only a boundless curtain of blood. Lung Shiqi walked in front of him with his sword. Great Will closed his eyes and smiled. That smile carried a sense of relief and innocence, like a 13-year-old boy's smile. On the other side of the battlefield, it was a one-sided situation. On the Supreme Society's side, Great Will escaped, Han Yun died in battle, and when Lu was not here. None of the remaining people could stop Delta Orgy. Not long after, the Supreme Society that originally had over 50 people was now reduced to 20 people. The remaining 20 people would fight to the death, because they still had a glimmer of hope in their hearts. However, something suddenly fell from the sky, completely shattering their hope. It was Great Will's head. Delta Orgy slashed the enemy's throat. Her snow-white robe was already stained with blood, making her even colder. When she saw Great Will's head fall to the ground, her heart skipped a beat, and she immediately shouted, "Great Will is dead. Those who surrender will be spared. Extreme Heaven's will is dead. Those who surrender will be spared. Extreme Heaven's will is dead. Those who surrender will be spared." The members of Blood Moon began to shout one after another. For a moment, their shouts shook the heavens. The remaining members of the Supreme Society looked at each other, their faces ashen, almost losing the will to fight. Finally, one of them threw down his weapon. This was like a signal. More and more people surrendered, and in the end, almost all of them were subdued. The Delta Orgy were looking around, but they did not find Long Shichi. They seemed to have thought of something. At this time, Ah Chun, who was covered in blood, limped over. He seemed to be seriously injured, but his face was full of excitement. Moon Lord, your subordinate is impressed. So the Moon Lord had already grasped everything in his hands. The Supreme Meeting is finished. Next, we'll rest and reorganize. Then, we'll go straight for the Supreme Society's camp. Wiping them out won't be a problem. There's no need for that. They should be here by now. Delta Orgy's words confused Ah Chun. However, in the next moment, a burst of battle cries rang out not far away. Kill! Kill! Ah Chun, including the members of Blood Moon, turned to look. They saw the other pure spirit realm member of the Supreme Society, Wenlu, charging over with more than 20 people. Meanwhile, the members of the Supreme Society who had surrendered all lowered their heads. They did not have any other thoughts because of the arrival of reinforcements, because they knew that those 20 people were purely here to die. Not to mention the others, Delta Orgy alone could take care of half of them. When Lil led his brothers over from the mountain, taking a risk and circling around, narrowly avoiding 2 first-grade demons. Just as he was about to attack Blood Moon from the front and back, and make a great contribution and be promoted to vice president, he gradually realized that something was wrong. Where was the president? Where was Red Cloud? Where was Dark Crow? Where were the members of the Supreme Society? As far as the eye could see, the people standing were all members of Blood Moon. Wenlu was completely dumbfounded. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, there were more than 10 corpses on the ground, and the number of people who surrendered reached more than 30. Ha ha ha! I didn't expect the members of the Supreme Society to be this stupid. They even came here to die. Moon Lord, you're really smart. Now that there's almost no one left in the Supreme Society, there must be a lot of resources in their camp. Moon Lord, give me some men. I'll bring them to take it away. Ah Chun volunteered. Delta Orgy shook his head, saying, it's too late. There shouldn't be anything good left there. Ah Chun was puzzled. Go back and recuperate. Yes. At this time, there were still people in the Supreme Society's camp. Although the Supreme Society had come out in full force, staking everything on this one throw, there were still a few injured people left in the camp. Among them was Mu Shiching. The few injured people were all talking and laughing, as if the Supreme Society's fight for the Stone Forest was just around the corner. Only Mu Shiching was sitting in a corner blankly, and no one paid attention to him. Suddenly, Mu Shiching seemed to have heard a slight movement. Then, the blankness in his eyes instantly disappeared and was replaced by a sharp light. Whoa! Mu Shiching suddenly stood up. The others saw him and looked at him. This person is stupid. Don't worry about him. Let's continue. With a bang, Mu Shiching instantly knelt down, his head lowered to the ground, and said a strange sentence. Greetings, Lord. This humble one is willing to lead the way for you." The others immediately looked at each other, not knowing what Mu Shiqing was doing. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared in front of them. Before they could react, a cold sword light flashed, and they lost their lives. Lung Shiqi stepped in front of Mu Shiqing in a black robe. He knelt even lower. "Interesting. Lead the way," Lung Shiqi said calmly. "Please follow me, Lord." Mu Shiqing stood up, but his body was still bowed as he walked in a direction. The two came in front of a tent, and Mu Shiqing said, "This is where the resources are stored. Usually, Lord Red Cloud and Lord Wen Lu take turns guarding it." Lung Shiqi nodded and walked into the tent, while Mu Shiqing lowered his head and stayed where he was. There was a large amount of food and water piled up around the tent, and a few wooden boxes in the middle. Lung Shiqi opened them one by one. Two of them were the two that Ji Tianyi had given him before. The rest were unranked spiritual skills, grade 1 weapons, spirit stones, and pills. Lung Shiqi directly put all the food and water into his backpack. Lung Shiqi learned the unranked spiritual skills on the spot. Although he could hardly use them, it was better than nothing. He sold all the grade 1 weapons to the system for 87 system coins. There are also 3 types of grade 2 weapons: sword, dagger, and axe. But Lung Shiqi's backpack only had 2 slots left after removing the food, water bags, grade 3 spiritual sword, and mission cards. Lung Shiqi thought for a moment, then tied the dagger to his ankle, put the axe and steel sword into his backpack, and held the grade 2 spiritual sword in his hand. Finally, he packed up the spirit stones and pills and carried them on his back, then walked out of the tent with a small box. Chapter 47. In fact, Lung Shiqi knew that the things he could find here were not the most valuable, especially the level 2 skills. These things would definitely be destroyed after being memorized by Great Heaven's will, and would not be left here. Even so, Lung Shiqi had already earned a lot. At this time, Mu 21 was still waiting respectfully outside the tent. When he saw Lung Shiqi come out, he was about to say something, but was interrupted by Lung Shiqi throwing a small box at him. "You're very smart, but unfortunately, you followed the wrong person. I'll leave these to you. How long you can live will depend on your own ability." Lung Shiqi said calmly, and then left. "Thank you for not killing me, my lord. Thank you for giving me a new lease of life." Mu 21 knelt sincerely until Lung Shiqi's figure could no longer be seen. He opened the box. There was a skill manual and 3 level 1 skills inside. The second day, in the big tent in the center of Blood Moon's camp, Delta Orgi sat on a wooden stool. Her fingers tapped on the armrest from time to time, looking a little anxious. Soon, Lung Shiqi floated out from the ground. Delta Orgi's eyes lit up at first, but when she saw the bulging bag on Lung Shiqi's back, the corner of her eyes couldn't help but twitch a few times. "Looks like you've gained quite a lot. It's SOSO. These are all small things that you won't be interested in. Besides, compared to what you've gained, these are nothing. How does it feel to have the stone forest all to yourself?" Lung Shiqi patted the bag on his back and said casually. Delta Orgi nodded slightly and said softly, "It's not that great." Lung Shiqi looked at her in surprise. He understood Delta Orgi's ambition. Now that she had the stone forest all to herself, why did she not look very happy? "I've been thinking of ways to destroy the Supreme Will Society, but it's very difficult. Even though Blood Moon was stronger than them and I was stronger than Great Heaven's will, we weren't strong enough to destroy them. If they forcefully attacked, it would only result in both sides suffering losses and give others an opportunity to take advantage of the situation. But now that you've appeared by chance, you've suddenly done it, but it feels a little surreal." Delta Orgi explained. Lung Shiqi was a little amused when he heard that, and continued, "As the saying goes, an unintentionally planted willow grows a shade. I came here by chance, joined your enemy's faction by chance, and helped you get rid of the Society of Excellence. Could it be that you will only be satisfied after a narrow victory in a bloody battle?" "That's true." Delta Orgi chuckled. "By the way, I want to ask you something. Do you still remember the direction of the cave, where we took the spirit fruit? Delta Orgy pondered for a moment, then pointed in a direction and said, "Go this way." After passing through the misty area, you'll reach the withered forest. The cave is in the withered forest. Withered forest. Hearing that, Lung Shichi understood. Actually, he didn't go very far. The stone forest and the withered forest were only separated by a misty area. It was also the place where Lung Shichi accidentally found the underground space when he killed the ape-shaped monster. "So you're here to say goodbye to me?" Delta Orgy saw through Lung Shichi's intentions. "That's right. There's a question that I haven't asked. Since you've decided to go back, you should have just left. Why did you help me this time?" Delta Orgy stared straight at Lung Shichi and asked. Lung Shichi turned his head slightly, not daring to look in her eyes. This time was a coincidence, and it's also a chance to return the favor for the spirit fruit. Delta Orgy heard this, and a layer of frost gradually covered her face. "Return the favor? Who needs you to return the favor?" Lung Shichi was stunned. He touched the tip of his nose and was about to say something, but Delta Orgy beat him to it. "Since you want to return the favor, then join Blood Moon. I know you're hiding secrets, but who doesn't? I want to ask you. Besides, you should have already experienced the benefits of having a force." Lung Shichi patted the bulging backpack behind him and nodded. "That's true. However, I do have some grudges that I haven't settled yet, so I still have to go back first. I'll consider joining Blood Moon." "Oh." Delta Orgy looked at Lung Shichi in surprise. She only said those words out of anger, but she didn't expect Lung Shichi to actually make a concession. Based on her understanding of Lung Shichi, he wasn't being perfunctory. He really would consider joining Blood Moon. This time, before Delta Orgy could say anything, Lung Shichi tightened his backpack and said, "All right, I'll give you an answer soon. I'll be leaving first. Oh, right, by the way, where can I find the demon beasts?" Delta Orgy, on the west side of the stone forest on the Blood Mist Island, there was a huge black bear that was half a zhang tall, walking slowly. It seemed to be bored to death. Whoosh! Suddenly, the giant black bear turned its head and discovered a human figure. Two scarlet rays of light shot out from the giant black bear's eyes, and it immediately charged towards the black figure. The black figure also saw the giant bear charging towards it, but didn't seem to be panicking. It lightly moved its feet and hid behind a strange rock. Boom! The giant black bear's fan-sized paw slammed down, smashing the huge rock into pieces. Rocks flew everywhere, but the giant black bear didn't discover anyone. Instead, it heard a voice behind it. "The black hair bear is indeed very strong, but it's a pity that it's not very fast." Lung Shichi, who was dressed in a black robe, slowly drew his spirit's sword and muttered to himself. Previously, Lung Shichi had heard from Delta Orgy that there was a very strong rank 1 demon beast, the black hair bear. At this stage, the forces that could be brought out basically had 2 or 3 pure spirit realm cultivators and dozens of spirit gathering realm cultivators. It was no longer a problem for them to fight against a rank 1 demon beast. At the very least, they could retreat. However, this black hair bear was not only very strong, its skin was also very thick. The attacks of ordinary spirit gathering realm cultivators were useless, and even pure spirit realm cultivators would find it difficult to break its skin. Basically, as long as the black hair bear appeared, whether it was the Supreme Union or Blood Moon, they would all retreat. "Then let me see how thick your skin is." As soon as Lung Shichi's voice fell, he closed his eyes and opened them, his entire body exuding a sense of agility. It was also at this moment that the black hair bear pounced over again. Its dark palms suddenly fell, but it pounced on empty air again. At the same time, Lung Shichi turned into a series of illusions. 5 sword rays flashed, and he directly appeared behind the black hair bear. The chaotic flowers gradually dazzled the eyes. Poochie! Poochie! Deep wounds suddenly appeared on the black hair bear's neck and limbs, and pillars of blood spurted out. Roar, roar, roar. The black hair bear was in pain and let out a deafening roar. Lung Shichi looked at the black hair bear in surprise and thought, its skin is really hard. Thinking back, his dazzling flowers was able to kill the ape-shaped demon beast in one move, although the ape-shaped demon beast was already severely injured at that time. It could be said that the black hair bear was the first demon beast that had taken the dazzling flowers head-on and not died. Chapter 48. The black-haired bear was covered in blood, but it was even more brutal. It bared its sharp fangs, and its 10 claws suddenly doubled in length. It waved its arms and rushed over. Lung Shichi's expression remained unchanged. Then let's try this move. No matter how brutal the black-haired bear was, its speed was far inferior to the ape-like monster. Lung Shichi used his confusing footwork to easily dodge the black-haired bear's giant paws. Bang! The black-haired bear once again smashed a large boulder. After that, it seemed to be exhausted and stopped in place to catch its breath. Chance! Lung Shichi stretched out his right arm and clenched his fist. Wong! A weak wave of air emitted from Lung Shichi's fist. At the same time, Lung Shichi's aura continued to rise. Huh! When his aura reached its peak, Lung Shichi let out a fierce shout and stretched his fist backward. Then his fist smashed out violently like a wave breaking through the wind. Before the black-haired bear could react, Lung Shichi's fist landed on its lower back with a boom. A large part of the black-haired bear's back caved in, and the faint sound of bones breaking could be heard. However, Lung Shichi's attack was not over yet. In the next moment, his fist suddenly erupted with a burst of tiger roars. A majestic spiritual force poured into the black-haired bear's body and wantonly destroyed its internal organs. Blood with a stench flowed out of the black-haired bear's mouth, and its huge body swayed. Lung Shichi did not give a chance to fight back. A sword and saber appeared in each of his hands. Then, the sword and saber flashed out. Not long after, the black-haired bear's body fell to the ground. At the same time, a line of words appeared in front of Lung Shichi's eyes. The price is 19 system coins. Do you want to sell? No. Lung Shichi did not come to kill monsters to earn system coins. There were 2 reasons. The first reason was to test his strength. In the past 2 days, he had been inspired by lustful flowers. When he had nothing to do, he had been thinking about whether he could combine other spiritual techniques. The move just now was a combination of the wave-breaking fist, tiger roaring fist, and triple fold palm. The level 2 spiritual skill, wave-breaking fist, was the first wave of attacks. The tiger roaring fist was hidden, and after contact, it became the second wave of explosion. Lung Shichi then integrated the 3-fold palm technique into it, causing the second wave of explosion to directly hit the enemy's body, attacking both internally and externally, combining hardness and gentleness. Tiger breaking 3 waves fist. Looking at it now, the power of this move was indeed ferocious. In terms of explosive power, it was not inferior to lustful chaotic blossoms. Moreover, this move was extremely ferocious, which made up for what Lung Shichi lacked the most. However, it was a pity that the tiger-breaking 3 waves fist hadn't completely fused together. There was still room for improvement. Other than that, there was another reason: to test the effects of the demonic beast essence technique. There were many types of cultivation arts. Even if they were of the same rank, they would have different characteristics. For example, the level 1 cultivation art mountain shattering force that he cultivated could refine his spirit energy faster. Record of the Wind would allow him to use his spirit energy more flexibly. The level 3 cultivation art demonic beast essence technique naturally had its own characteristics, which was that it could refine demon beasts to increase his cultivation. This cultivation art had 3 levels: demon blood refining, demon pill swallowing, and demon soul devouring. With Lung Shichi's current cultivation, he could only refine the first level of demon blood refining. The black-haired bear was the best material. Standing beside the black-haired bear's corpse, Lung Shichi waved his hand, and Ziyu flew into the sky and circled around to guard him. On the other hand, Lung Shichi formed a spiritual seal with his hand and shouted, "Duo!" Immediately, the black-haired bear's wounds began to spurt out scarlet blood. The blood gathered and condensed. Gradually, all the blood in the black-haired bear's body was sucked dry, and its body became a bit shriveled. In the air above its body, a 2-foot-wide ball of blood condensed. Lung Shichi's spiritual seal changed, and the ball of blood began to spin rapidly. It became smaller at a speed visible to the naked eye, and its color became darker and darker. After half an hour, Lung Shichi's forehead was covered in a layer of sweat, and he withdrew his spiritual seal. The ball of blood was only the size of a fist, and its color was completely black and red. Lung Shichi reached out and held the ball of blood in his hand. He suddenly felt a sticky feeling and a strong stench. "Do I have to eat this thing?" Lung Shichi's mouth twitched, and he found it hard to accept. However, he had to accept it. As long as he could quickly increase his cultivation, this was nothing. Lung Shichi then called out the system, and a notification appeared in front of him. "It's worth 15 system coins. Do you want to sell it?" Lung Shichi raised his eyebrows slightly. After pondering for a moment, he chose yes. The black-haired bear's huge body suddenly disappeared, and only some bloodstains on the ground were left to prove that it had once existed. Lung Shichi then quickly left the place. In the battle just now, Lung Shichi looked powerful and extraordinary, but in fact, he had used up more than half of his spiritual power. Whether it was the chaotic blossom dazzling eyes or the 3 waves tiger breaking fist, they were both spiritual techniques that consumed a lot of spiritual power. After refining the demon blood, he used both spiritual power and mental power at the same time. Now, he had less than 30% of his spiritual power left. After calling back Ziyu, Lung Shichi quickly left. Lung Shichi ran as fast as he could, and after turning into a huge rock, he sank into the ground. After opening up a small space underground, Lung Shichi first recovered his spiritual power, then took out the ball of blood, held his breath, and swallowed it in one gulp. When the ball of blood entered his body, it instantly turned into an extremely violent spiritual power and constantly rampaged through Lung Shichi's meridians. Lung Shichi couldn't help but let out a muffled groan. This was completely outside of his expectations. The demonic beast destruction technique didn't mention this point, but there was no other way. He could only use his spiritual power to suppress the violent spiritual power. Unfortunately, the effect was not very good. Many thoughts flashed through Lung Shichi's mind, and finally, a touch of madness appeared on his face. Then, he directly channeled the violent spiritual power into his dantian, wanting to use this powerful external force to forcefully polish his spiritual power. Normally, polishing his spiritual power was like grinding water, but at this moment, it was like a huge wave. The violent spiritual power sank into his dantian, and in an instant, it turned his dantian upside down. At this moment, Lung Shichi's body began to tremble, and his face was full of pain, but he gritted his teeth and took this opportunity to constantly polish his spiritual power. As time passed, the violent spiritual power gradually weakened, and Lung Shichi's spiritual power became more and more pure. Unknowingly, Lung Shichi's spiritual power slowly gained the upper hand. It was also at this moment that a faint sound came from Lung Shichi's body. Immediately after, his aura surged, and an invisible spiritual pressure spread out, causing his clothes to flutter. 4th level of the pure spirit realm. However, after Lung Shichi had broken through to the 4th level of the pure spirit realm, there was still some of the violent spirit energy left in his body. Lung Shichi concentrated fully, and in just a moment, he completely refined it. Immediately, Lung Shichi opened his eyes, and 2 rays of light flashed through his eyes. Phew! Lung Shichi finally breathed a sigh of relief. The violent spiritual power just now almost took his life. Fortunately, he practiced 3 cultivation methods at the same time, and the meridians in his body were tougher. Otherwise, his meridians would have exploded and he would have died. Chapter 49. At this moment, Lung Shiqi still had some lingering fear in his heart. However, high risks also brought huge benefits. Now, not only had he successfully broken through to the 4th level of the pure spirit realm, his cultivation had also jumped up a little. All in all, it was equivalent to 10 days of his bitter cultivation. Refining the blood essence of a rank 1 demonic beast was equivalent to 10 days of bitter cultivation. A bright light flashed through Lung Shiqi's eyes. One had to know that the thing that Blood Fog Island lacked the most was demonic beasts. He could use this method to quickly improve his cultivation. Thinking of this, Lung Shiqi couldn't help but feel a little excited, and said with emotion, as expected of a rank 3 cultivation method. In the next few days, Lung Shiqi was not in a hurry to return to the cave. He walked slowly like this, and from time to time, he would encounter demonic beasts. He was not careless, and directly used all his strength to kill the demonic beasts at the fastest speed, and then destroyed the corpses. However, the movement he made was too big, and even if he cleaned up the battlefield, he was still noticed by some people. In this way, 4 days passed, and Lung Shiqi had already refined 7 rank 1 demonic beasts, and his cultivation was already at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. However, Lung Shiqi was not very happy, because he suddenly realized that even though his cultivation was at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm, the spiritual energy in his body was somewhat impure. In other words, although refining demonic beast blood could allow him to quickly improve his cultivation, it would also cause his spiritual energy to be impure. In the long run, it would cause his foundation to be unstable. Therefore, Lung Shiqi restrained the impulse to quickly improve his cultivation, and stopped in time and rushed back to the area where he was originally, the withered forest. He planned to go back to the cave to rest and refine his spiritual energy. Who would have thought that he would hear the sound of fighting halfway? Strange, the eruption of cultivation resources is 3 days later, and there is no water here. Who would fight at this time? Lung Shiqi secretly felt strange, and with a thought, he quietly moved in the direction of the fighting. In this area of the withered forest, only the Yushu clan, the Belituan, and the Mahis sect could fight. Among them, the Yushu clan and the Belituan both had grudges with him. He might be able to gain something if he went over to take a look. After quietly approaching, Lung Shiqi hid behind a dead tree and observed. There were 2 groups of people fighting, and one of them was the Belituan. Lung Shiqi didn't recognize the other people, so they should be from Immerse Gate. There weren't many people fighting, only about 20 or so in total. Although it was called a fight, it was more appropriate to describe it as a martial arts competition, because no one revealed any killing intent. Looks like they only want to determine the victor, not the victor. Lung Shiqi thought to himself. There were 4 people who stood out the most in the battle. First, it was Bailey Qing and his opponent. The only person who could compete with Bailey Qing was Immerse Gate's sovereign, Immerse. The other 2 were also pure spirit realm cultivators, and one of them was a black-faced young man. Lung Shiqi seemed to have some impression of him. Lung Shiqi silently observed the battle situation. In the end, the final victory or defeat was still on the 4 pure spirit realm cultivators. However, no matter if it was Bailey Qing or the black-faced young man, they were both in the upper hand. Looks like the Belituan is going to win. Sure enough, suddenly Bailey Qing's long spear swept and flicked rapidly, drawing 2 rays of spiritual light in the air, forming a cross shape. He suddenly stabbed again, and the tip of the spear condensed a sharp spiritual light in the center of the cross shape and immediately stabbed forward. Immerse's expression changed. He didn't dare to take it head-on and could only try his best to dodge, but his shoulder was still scratched by the spiritual light. 2nd level spiritual skill. My luck is not bad. Lung Shiqi looked at Bailey Qing with a little surprise. A 2nd level spiritual skill was very rare, and it just so happened to be suitable for Bailey Qing's spear skills. On the other side, that black-faced young man also barely won a move. Stop! Bailey Qing shouted. Everyone from the Belituan immediately stopped and retreated when they heard this. Bailey Ching took 2 steps forward and said, "Victory and defeat have been decided. I wonder if Sect Master Mo can afford to lose." Mo Yi's expression sunk and said seriously, "Bailey Ching, why are you so persistent? This is my business. I only want to know your choice." "All right, if you agree to bet, then you must accept defeat. Before you make a move, send someone to look for me." Mo Yi's face was gloomy, and finally he clenched his teeth and said in a deep voice, "I believe Sect Master Mo will not go back on his words. Goodbye." Bailey Ching's murderous gaze swept past Mo Yi and the rest, and following that he smiled slightly and left with his subordinates. Seeing Bailey Ching leaving, Mo Yi's face revealed a sinister look, and in the end he also brought his men back. Lung Shiqi witnessed everything, but he was still puzzled, not understanding what Bailey Ching wanted to do. If he wanted to force Mo's sect to join forces against the Yushu clan, then his attitude towards Mo Yi shouldn't be like this. Moreover, the 2 groups of people were fighting openly and creating such a huge commotion, it was impossible to hide from the Yushu clan. Perhaps there might be people from the Yushu clan secretly spying on them. Shaking his head, Lung Shiqi didn't have the mood to bother about them, because with Lung Shiqi's ability and vision, it was just like playing house between them. No matter what he did, as long as it had nothing to do with him, it was fine. Following that, Lung Shiqi quietly returned to the shelter he had arranged, the cave. Entering the cave, Lung Shiqi's body gradually relaxed, and when he touched the slightly damp bed, Lung Shiqi directly laid on it and fell into a deep sleep. Since the last time he went out, it had been 1.5 months. First, he fought with the Yushu clan and the Beilituan, and then he encountered a first-level demonic beast. After that, he accidentally discovered the underground space and was almost discovered and even trapped by the restriction, which could be said to be a narrow escape. After escaping with great difficulty, he unintentionally got involved in the battle between the Supreme Society and Blood Moon. What's more, he didn't expect to meet the Delta Orgy and help her destroy the Supreme Society. Later on, he forcefully refined the demonic blood and almost died from his meridians exploding. Although his cultivation and ability had greatly improved, but it could be said that all these were exchanged with his life. Lung Shiqi suddenly felt very tired. Every bone in his body, every meridian was faintly aching. His eyes were blurred, and his body gently fell on the small bed, and unknowingly, a light snoring sound was heard. At the same time, in a corner of the withered forest, 10 over-figures stood facing each other. One of them reclined on a wooden chair, peeling a juicy fruit in his hand, and then took a bite. Oh, sweet! A blissful expression appeared on that person's face, and he even smacked his lips. Seeing this, the veins at the corner of Bailey Ching's eyes twitched a few times, but he suppressed the anger in his heart and tried to speak in a calm voice. "Sect Master Yu, did you understand what I said just now?" Yes, it's sweet." Yushu took another bite of the fruit and continued, "Didn't you say that he came back?" "That's right." "Then who's back?" Bailey Ching put his hands behind his back, tightly clenching and unclenching his fists, and said word by word, "Lung 10-7. "Oh." Yushu was surprised and didn't continue to eat the fruit. "Sect Master, you must have also realized the threat of that person. You just said, Lung 10? Who?" Yushu showed a puzzled expression. "You." Bailey Ching almost couldn't control his emotions, but in the end he said calmly, "It's that Lung Shiqi who defeated you face to face and took the 2nd-grade spiritual weapon from you." "Nonsense. What do you mean I lost? We fought to a draw. Do you understand?" Yushu heard this and jumped up from the wooden chair as if his tail had been stepped on. Chapter 50. Hearing Yushu's words, Bailey Ching roared in his heart. "You still say you don't know Lung Shiqi?" But he still continued to say slowly, "Then he doesn't put you in his eyes at all, and I heard that he has broken through to the 4th level of the pure spirit realm." "Oh." 4th level of the pure spirit realm? Don't worry, I'm also at the 4th level. Yushu said indifferently. Bailey Qing had reached the edge of rage and was about to lose control. If Yushu wasn't at the 4th level of the pure spirit realm, he would immediately stab him with his spear. He said in a deep voice. Not only that, someone saw him kill a rank 1 monster alone. What? Yushu's eyes widened, and he put away his previous sloppy appearance, and a hint of disbelief appeared in his eyes. The people around all showed a look of disbelief when they heard this news. They were terrified of a rank 1 monster, but someone could deal with a rank 1 monster alone. How strong was that person? How do you know this news? Yushu stared straight at Bailey Qing as if he wanted to see through him. Bailey Qing felt very comfortable when he saw Yushu's expression at this time, and he calmed down and said indifferently, Sect Master, you doesn't have to worry about this. I can guarantee that the news is absolutely reliable. I don't need to deceive you with false news. If the news was false, I wouldn't have come to you. So what? Lung Shiqi has the greatest hatred with you, Beilichuan. If he comes back, of course, he will find trouble with you first. I have no enmity with him, and I even gave him a rank 2 spirit weapon. Yushu shrugged and said indifferently, Is that so? Then I want to know who leaked the whereabouts of Lung Shiqi to me at that time. I think Lung Shiqi will also be very interested. Bailey Qing said with a touch of pride in his eyes. Ha! Brother Bailey, why do you have to do this? Yushu clapped his hands and laughed dryly. Bailey Qing was already impatient and said directly, All right, I don't want to beat around the bush with you anymore. Lung Shiqi is too strong. Even if you are not afraid, what about your subordinates? How many people could be his match? If he killed one of your men, would you fight him to the death? You won't, because you're scared. You're afraid that if you forcefully kill him, you'll suffer heavy losses and and I will kick you when you're down. But we will all face the same problem. The existence of the Lung Shiqi is like a fishbone in our throat. With him around, the 3 of us can forget about living comfortably. Moreover, he has a grudge against you and me. Why don't we take the initiative before he comes to take revenge on us? Bailey Qing said as his body emitted traces of killing intent. You're right, but you've also said that he has the ability to kill a first-tier demonic beast alone. It's impossible to kill him just by relying on you and me. Yushu's voice also became dignified. Not only you and me, but also your subordinates Qi Shui and Hua Lingling. My subordinate blood is no different, and clap, clap. After that, Bailey Qing clapped his hands. 2 people walked out from behind him. Mo Sex, Overlord Mo E, and Pure Spirit Realms Mo2. A total of 7 Pure Spirit Realm cultivators. Killing Lung Shiqi is not a problem. Yushu was surprised to see Mo E here. Logically speaking, Mo Sect and Lung Shiqi had no grudge against each other. Sitting on top of the mountain and watching the tigers fight was the best choice. Sect Master Yu, Lung Shiqi is a common threat to all of us. If we don't get rid of him, do we have to give up all the cultivation resources that he wants? Make a decision. Bailey Qing continued to speak, his voice full of persuasion. Even if the 7 pure spirit realm cultivators can defeat him, but to kill him is not 100% certain. Either we don't do it, or we must kill him, otherwise there will be endless trouble. Yushu said in a deep voice. Then we'll use human lives to pile up. Bailey Qing's face was filled with hostility. Gather all the 9th level spirit realm cultivators. We can exhaust Lung Shiqi to death. As long as you don't hold back, he will die without a doubt. Bailey Qing's voice fell, but Yushu remained silent, as if he was still hesitating. Bailey Qing added more strength. I have specially inquired about Lung Shiqi's character and found that he is an extremely crazy person who will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. When we're defeated by him one by one, it will be too late to join forces. In fact, Yushu's considerations were far more than Bailey Qing's. He had seen Lung Shiqi controlling thunder and lightning to kill the blood-spotted leopard with his own eyes. He did not have the confidence to withstand that kind of power. Another layer was related to the Delta Origi. Yushu knew that the relationship between Lung Shiqi and Delta Orgi was not ordinary. If they really killed Lung Shiqi, would they be targeted by the Delta Orgi in future? After hesitating for a moment, Yushu suddenly turned around, his eyes emitting an icy cold murderous intent as he said sternly, "For days later, we'll make our move." Because Yushu himself was very clear that Lung Shiqi wanted to kill him very much. Bailey Qing, Moe, and Yushu looked at each other and nodded. After that, the few of them started to discuss the details of their plan. At this moment, Lung Shiqi was still immersed in his sleep, totally unaware that a huge crisis was quietly approaching. Lung Shiqi slept for a full day and night. When he woke up, he felt refreshed and refreshed. Lung Shiqi stretched his body, and a series of cracking sounds could be heard coming from his body like beans being fried. Lung Shiqi casually ate and drank a little, then sat cross-legged and picked up the bulging bag beside him and opened it. The bag was piled with a large amount of cultivation resources. Just the spirit stones alone were as many as 30 to 40 pieces. One must know that it was not easy for an ordinary person to have 1 or 2 spirit stones in their hands. Other than that, there were many medicinal pills, some to strengthen one's foundation, some to increase one's spiritual energy, some to regulate one's qi and blood, some to recover one's spiritual energy, etc. After Lung Shiqi sorted these into categories, he sat quietly without moving, his eyes revealing a pondering look. These resources in front of him were only a portion of a small forces collection. Although it was not the most precious, it was already a considerable amount. Lung Shiqi even felt that it was a waste for him to use it alone. This caused other thoughts to arise in his mind. Every time the cultivation resources erupted, they would be scattered all over Blood Mist Island. Not many of them would fall into the withered forest, and most of them would be divided among the 3 forces. If he was alone, no matter how strong he would only be able to snatch 1 or 2. The rest would have been taken by others long ago. This was the biggest disadvantage of a lone wolf. No matter how strong you were still alone. However, Lung Shiqi had too many secrets. It was impossible for him to join other forces. Only the Delta Orgi's blood moon was within his consideration. If he wanted to create a force, he could do it with his strength, but he did not like and was not good at controlling people. He preferred to be alone and be free. After thinking for a while, Lung Shiqi suddenly had a flash of inspiration and took out a dark green bottle. His fingers kept rubbing the small bottle. Lung Shiqi's eyes became brighter and brighter. This might work. Chapter 51. 3 days later, which was the day before the eruption of cultivation resources, Lung Shiqi left the cave. After a few days of consideration, he decided to secretly control one of the forces. In this way, not only could he collect a large amount of resources, he also didn't need to be distracted. It was the best of both worlds. And the target he chose was Moe clan. In these 3 days, Lung Shiqi had secretly caught some people to inquire about the news of the 3 forces in Withered Forest. Now, among the 3 forces, Yushu clan was in the lead. Clan Master Yushu had broken through to the 4th level of Pure Spirit Realm not long ago, and there were 2 Pure Spirit Realm experts under him. Belichuan was second, while Moe clan was the weakest. The weaker they were, the easier it was for Lung Shiqi to succeed. Actually, in the beginning, among the 3 factions, the 100-Mile Group was the weakest. This was because Lung Shiqi had once killed more than 10 members of the 100-Mile Group consecutively. It could be said that he had severely injured them. But later on, Moe clan actually provoked Yushu clan, and after a few rounds of fighting, Moe clan was defeated. At this time, Belichuan was quietly developing and had surpassed Moe clan in one leap. Moreover, Lung Shiqi had coincidentally seen Moe and Bailey Qing sparring and knew that Moe did not cultivate any second-level spirit skills. Even though their cultivations were similar, both were at the 3rd level of Pure Spirit Realm, but they were no match for Bailey Qing. Being suppressed by Yushu, He might be able to tolerate it, but to be suppressed by Bailey Qing, and Mo Yi's heart would definitely be filled with grievances. This was a breakthrough point. Lung Shiqi was dressed in a black robe as he sped through the night, as though he was a ghost from the abyss. About a quarter of an hour later, Lung Shiqi arrived at a small-scale campsite nearby. But at this moment he frowned. From the information he had received, there were a total of 60 to 70 people in Mo clan. But Lung Shiqi saw that there were many people inside. Roughly counting, there were more than 100 people. Lung Shiqi's mind moved, and his body sank into the ground. In Mo clan's big tent, there were 7 people sitting around, 6 men and 1 woman. These 7 people were the pure spirit realm experts of the 3 forces. Tomorrow was the day they decided to eliminate Lung Shiqi. They gathered here today to discuss how to lure him into their trap. As for why they had chosen Mo Gate to discuss this matter, it was because Mo Gate was the weakest and would not be able to cause any waves. After the injection of cultivation resources tomorrow, send everyone out to search for the Lung Shiqi, Bailey Qing said first. Idiot! Yushu looked at him with disdain. Ignoring Bailey Qing's ugly expression, he continued, Do we need to find him? If he really came back, he would definitely fight for the cultivation resources. He would take the initiative to appear. When the time came, all he had to do was to quickly send a message. Also, those below the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm do not need to know about this. Let them fight, but don't kill. Otherwise, it will be bad if the Lung Shiqi notices something. Bailey Qing and Mo nodded their heads when they heard that. The most important thing is that when we gather, we must not rush. We must surround him and not let the Lung Shiqi escape. If he escapes, you all should be very clear about what the consequences will be, Yushu said solemnly. Bailey Qing's eyes were filled with fear. If a person who could kill a first-tier demonic beast was watching him at all times, he would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Once the encirclement is successful, we must first exhaust him. Those who have concealed weapons, throw them. Those who don't, throw stones. He has cultivated spiritual skills. This kind of attack will not hurt him, but it will consume a lot of his spiritual energy. Furthermore, the 7 of us cannot attack together. To be honest, we are already on guard against each other. If we attack together, we will be restrained. The 3 of us will form a triangle to attack the Lung Shiqi. Once the Lung Shiqi has the intention to break through, we will support each other. The last sentence. Since everyone has chosen to do this, then do your best. I don't want anyone to deliberately hold back and cause any bad consequences. Yushu said a series of words. Finally, his eyes shot out rays of light as he scanned a few of them. Bailey Qing and the rest of them looked a little unnatural, but they still agreed. However, what they didn't know was that there was a figure hiding under the ground where they were talking, who had heard all their secret plans. And this person was the target that they were about to join forces to kill, Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi was also a little confused at this time. How did they know that I'm back? I'm such a big threat, I didn't even know. In fact, when Lung Shiqi was trapped underground for more than a month, he didn't appear for so long. This made Bailey Qing and Yushu think that they had used their numbers to force Lung Shiqi away, especially since Bailey Qing and Lung Shiqi had a life and death grudge. When he learned that Lung Shiqi's strength had greatly increased and he had returned, he subconsciously thought that Lung Shiqi would definitely come for revenge. Thus, Bailey Qing steeled his heart and decided to get rid of Lung Shiqi. But the cost of just relying on his Belituan to get rid of Lung Shiqi was too great. In order to get rid of this threat at the smallest cost, he decided to join forces with the Yushu clan and Jet Black sect. He first used a large amount of resources as a bet and bet with Jet Black sect. If Jet Black sect won, then all the cultivation resources would belong to them. If Jet Black sect lost, then he would join forces with the Belituan to get rid of Lung Shiqi. After that, he went to persuade the Yushu clan, which led to today's matter. After Lung Shiqi eavesdropped on the news, he quietly retreated. He was very glad that he came today. Otherwise, he would really be trapped in a situation of being surrounded and killed. Thinking about the scene of being surrounded by 7 pure spirit realm cultivators and a large group of 9th-level spirit gathering realm cultivators, Lung Shichi couldn't help but tremble slightly. Of course, he wasn't afraid, because with the Hand of Earth, he was already in an invincible position. Even if he couldn't win, he could just drill into the ground and escape. What would they do to him? The reason Lung Shichi was trembling was because he was excited. Perhaps it was because there was a warlike seed in the depths of his heart, or perhaps it was because he had refined a lot of demon blood that he had unknowingly become a little manic. But when he thought of fighting against dozens of people by himself, the blood in his body faintly boiled. Who? Lung Shichi took a deep breath and suppressed the restlessness in his body. Although he was excited, he hadn't reached the point of being arrogant. The expression in his eyes kept changing, as if he was thinking about something. He had to do something. After pondering for a while, Lung Shichi seemed to have made a decision, and his body sank into the ground again. In the Ink Sect camp, there were 3 groups of people standing clearly separated. Normally, if these people saw each other, they would directly draw their swords. Who knew how much hatred had accumulated between them? At this time, it was already very rare for them to be able to stand here steadily. At this time, a short youth in the Bellichuan was a little irritated from standing, so he casually took 2 steps forward. Coincidentally, the people of Ink Sect who were passing by were carrying some fruits towards the big tent. The 2 of them glared at each other and brushed past each other. The moment the 2 of them passed by each other, the person carrying the plate suddenly staggered and fell to the ground, the plate full of fruits rolling around. That person hurriedly got up, his face full of anger. He turned around and grabbed the short youth in the Bellichuan, questioning, "Why did you trip me? Are you crazy?" The short youth was puzzled and asked back, "There's only the 2 of us here. If you didn't trip me, who else could it be? I advise you to let go of your hand now." The short youth was already a little angry, but when he saw that this person was only at the 8th level of the spirit gathering realm, his tone became a little more contemptuous. "You. So what if I don't let go? Don't forget, this is Ink Sect. I'll say it one last time, let go. I won't let go." Scram! The short youth was enraged and punched out. The Ink Sect person didn't expect the other party to suddenly attack and was completely unprepared. He was directly sent flying and crashed into a wooden pillar. His body twitched a few times, and he actually stopped breathing. Chapter 52. When the short boy saw that person lying on the ground without getting up, he muttered trash in disdain and pretended to leave. But when he saw that the man was still lying there motionless, he frowned and walked over. He said in a bad mood, "You're not going to give up. Hey, I didn't use much spiritual power in that punch. Why are you pretending to be dead?" But that person was still lying there limply. The short boy couldn't help but panic. He quickly squatted down and stretched out his hand. That person had already stopped breathing. "What? He's dead." The short boy turned pale with fright and shouted sharply. His shout immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding people. The short boy hurriedly covered his mouth, but it was already too late. The first to arrive were a few people from the Jet Black sect. When they arrived, they immediately realized that one of their own had died here. He died in his own territory. The Bellichuan's people killed a member of the Jet Black sect in their own territory. The short boy immediately caused public outrage. He did it. I saw him punch 233 just now. He's from a Bellichuan. The Bellichuan has gone too far. A life for a life. Dozens of people from the Jet Black sect gathered around. The dozen people that Bailey Ching brought also stood beside the short boy. Both sides immediately drew their swords. "What's going on?" The other people from the Bellichuan asked the short boy. I don't know. I just casually punched him. Who knew that he would die?" The short boy was also very confused, but the current situation made him somewhat fearful. He naturally knew why they were here. At this critical moment, such a thing happened. If they pursued the matter, he wouldn't be able to forgive himself. "What? You really punched him?" G13, do you know how critical this moment is? Have you lost your mind? That person might have some injuries on his body. How could you be so impulsive? The people from Beilichuan were also very angry at G13's actions. But after all, he was one of their own. At this moment, they had to stand up. Both sides started a quarrel like this. Their anger grew bigger and bigger, and they could fight at any time. Such a large commotion naturally alarmed the 7 people in the secret room. When they came out, they saw that the people from Mo Gate and the Beilichuan were almost fighting. They looked at each other, but didn't say anything. Mo, he stepped forward and bellowed, "What are you doing? Sovereign, the people from the Beilichuan have gone too far. They actually killed 233. What did you say? Say that one more time." Mo Yi's eyes widened as he revealed a shocked expression which was instantly replaced by fury. When Beilichuan heard this, his expression changed drastically. "That's him." Mo Yi turned his head and shot a sharp glare towards 13G as he asked coldly, "You're the one who killed my men?" 13G's heart tightened. He opened his mouth and mumbled, I just touched him. I didn't want to kill him." "Bastard!" Beilichuan shouted angrily, interrupting him. Following that, he speedily ran towards 13G and struck out with his palm. 13G instantly spat out blood and flew out. "Sovereign Mo, I'm not strict enough in my discipline. After this matter is settled, I will punish 13G severely." Beilichuan cupped his fist as he squeezed out a stiff smile. Mo Yi walked over step by step and stood in front of Beilichuan. His eyes looked straight into his eyes as he said word by word, "This is Mo Gate." The reason why the two of them got into a conflict and the process was not important anymore. The most important thing was that 233 was dead. He died in Mo Gate's own campsite. A simple sentence of severe punishment was not something that could be easily resolved. Sovereign Mo, at this critical juncture, don't let such a small matter affect the bigger picture. Beilichuan knew what Mo Yi was thinking as he said earnestly. Hearing this, Mo Gate's members were unhappy as they were extremely indignant. Small matter? You call the death of a person a small matter? The person who died wasn't your Beilichuan's men. A life for a life. A life for a life. A life for a life. Mo Gate's members started to shout loudly. At this moment, Beilichuan's expression had sunk, and Yushu and the rest were secretly thinking that something was amiss. Actually, if this matter happened in normal times, it was a very normal small matter. That's right, it was a small matter. On Blood Mist Island, it was very common for people to die. But this was Mo Gate's campsite, and killing a Mo Gate's disciple was not a small matter. This was equivalent to giving Mo Yi, the sect master of Mo, sect a slap on his face. If Mo Yi easily let this matter pass, then his position as the sovereign would have reached its end. So he must stand out forcefully. Mo Yi's imposing manner suddenly changed and became overbearing. "I want an explanation. Mo Yi, the bigger picture is at hand. Do you really want to be so ruthless?" Beilichuan kept his smile and his tone sunk. As the leader of the Beilichuan, he naturally could not hand over his men. Mo Yi sneered. "Beilichuan, you might have forgotten one thing. My Mo Gate and Lung Shichi have no enmity." "You, don't tell me you want to go back on your words?" Beilichuan's expression changed as he shouted sharply. "You killed my men in front of everyone. You must give me an explanation for this matter. Do you really think I'm afraid of you?" Mo Yi did not give in at all. Both of them became silent, but the atmosphere became even more solemn, mixed with a slight smell of gunpowder. At this moment, Yushu, who was enjoying the show, knew that it was time for him to come out. Cough, cough. Yushu coughed dryly twice to attract their attention. He continued, I say, both of you don't need to be so stiff. Calm down, calm down." Mo Yi and Beilichuan tactfully took a step back. They knew that it was impossible for them to fight at this moment. Yushu's appearance gave them a way out. "Both of you, this matter happened too suddenly, and we don't know the whole story. Why don't we let our subordinates investigate carefully? Perhaps there might be some misunderstanding. When the truth is out, we can discuss the matter on its merits." Yushu had already put it this way, so they naturally understood what Yushu meant. The matter was very simple. What was there to investigate? It was just a temporary measure. After they got rid of Lung Shichi tomorrow, Mo, Gate, and Beilichuan could do whatever they wanted. But now was not the time to start an internal conflict. Investigate it carefully for me. If G13 really killed 233 for no reason, no matter how many people protect him, I will make him pay with his life. Mo, he said expressionlessly as he turned around and entered the tent. Only after he entered the tent, his expression became slightly distorted. Bailey Ching whispered to his subordinates, "All of you better behave yourselves. If there's any more problem, I'll take your head." This matter was temporarily suppressed, but everyone's hearts were covered with a layer of shadow. Yushu sighed faintly. He didn't know why, but he always had a feeling of unease. The plan this time might not be as smooth as he had imagined. Lung Shichi, who had witnessed all of this, also left the place and quietly returned to the cave. He had secretly used some tricks to break 233's heart meridians, thus stirring up their internal conflict. But this could only be said to have planted a seed in their hearts and was not enough to destroy their alliance. Chapter 53. Returning to the cave. In order to prepare for tomorrow's challenge, Lung Shichi called out the system and looked at his information. Name: Lung Shichi, Lu Xingji, Cultivation, Level 5 of Pure Spirit Realm Cultivation Method. Rank 1 Cultivation Method. Mountain Shattering Force Rank 1 Cultivation Method. Record of the Wind Rank 3 Cultivation Method. Beast Essence Demon Breaking Technique Bloodline. Spiritual Skill. Great Perfection of the Unranked Spiritual Technique, Threefold Water Palm. Rank 1 Spiritual Skill. Gold Breaking Blade Perfection First Stage Spiritual Technique, Vine Grappling Hand, has reached perfection. Rank 1 Spiritual Skill. Windward Finger Perfection Rank 1 Spiritual Skill. Centipede Curse Perfection Rank 2 Spiritual Skill. Wave Breaking Fist Perfection Special Spiritual Skill. Hand of the Earth Perfection Special Spiritual Skill. Chakra Walk Perfection System Coins. 206. Looking at the system coins that were as high as 200, Lung Shichi hesitated. These system coins were obtained from looting the Supreme Meeting and killing many monsters. Originally, he planned to save them for the next system upgrade, because for him now, the beginner prizes did not seem to satisfy him. But now, the fastest way to improve his strength was through the lottery. The stronger he was, the smoother tomorrow's plan could be carried out. Then, Lung Shichi made up his mind and opened the lottery interface, boldly choosing 20 consecutive draws. After a while, Lung Shichi rubbed his forehead with a slight headache. Looking at the small pile of miscellaneous items beside him, he could not help but sigh. This time, he did not get much from the 20 consecutive draws, and there were only a few things that could be used. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Sword Heart Illumination. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Tendon Changing Bow, 10 Bows and Arrows. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Instance Dungeon Card. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Close Combat Skill. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Ghost Parade. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Spirit Medicine. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the beginner prize, Spirit Protection Ring. The other items were some materials and miscellaneous items. Not to mention, Sword Heart Illumination was a wisp of pure, white sword energy. Lung Shichi touched it and it went into his mouth. After carefully feeling it, he found that there were no obvious changes. The Tendon Changing Bow was a Tier 2 spirit artifact. Lung Shichi tested it and found that it would take some effort to pull it into a full moon. The power of the arrow that was shot out would definitely not be small. The Instance Dungeon card was similar to the mission card he had drawn before, but it was blue in color. He had no use for it now, so he put it away. Close combat techniques could be considered a spiritual technique, but it wasn't a type of move. Instead, it was a type of combat technique. It was not bad to be able to use every muscle and joint in the body flexibly. The 100 Ghost Parade was a level 1 body movement technique that was a level 1 body movement technique. Its Shichi was to the host to heaven, was to increase his speed to the stage, to the host to the stage, to perfection to the next stage. Lung Shichi was finally in a better mood. He murmured, "Ghost Parade combined with confusion footwork is definitely a weapon that can be used to attack and defend. Tomorrow's plan can be adjusted." Then he picked up the spirit medicine. This thing could increase his spirit strength for a short period of time, but it also had some side effects. Finally, the spirit protection ring was a rare defensive spiritual weapon. After injecting spirit strength, it could activate a protective spirit light. Unfortunately, this thing could only be used once. Lung Shichi counted the rewards of the lottery while adjusting his plan in his mind. The next day, the entire withered forest area seemed to be covered with a layer of oppressive dark clouds. Everyone was waiting for something to happen. Lung Shichi looked up at the sky from time to time. He seemed to be waiting for something. At this moment, he was standing near the 100-mile regiment's camp. Not long ago, he saw Bailey Ching take all the elites out. Now there were only 10 people left. Lung Shichi waited silently. His eyes flashed fiercely. Bang! The cultivation resources began to erupt. At this moment, everyone began to move. Lung Shichi took out a dark gold mask and put on his face. He raised his right arm, and his purple wings spread out as he took off into the sky. He circulated the spirit strength in his body. Immediately, a layer of dark mist rose from his feet and extended to his ankles. He moved his feet, and his whole body suddenly jumped out. This was a light-body spiritual technique, Ghost Parade. When he approached the Beilichuan camp, Lung Shichi's figure disappeared into the ground. At this moment, the 10 people left behind were chatting in boredom. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared behind one of them. Everyone was stunned. However, this moment was the difference between life and death. Lung Shichi moved the sword in his hand. A dazzling light burst out and instantly cut the throat of the person in front of him. At this moment, the other people finally came back to their senses, but their reactions were different. 6 of them picked up their weapons and surrounded him, but the other 3 turned around and ran. Lung Shichi maintained the Ghost Parade. His feet moved in confusion like a ghost. Every time he attacked, he would reap a life. In the blink of an eye, 6 cold bodies were lying at Lung Shichi's feet. He only knocked one of them out. Looking at the 3 people running away, Lung Shichi's sword suddenly disappeared. It was replaced by a dark gray bow. Tendon changing bow. Creak! The bow was pulled to a full moon. The sound of the bow bending could be heard. Whoosh! A sharp arrow shot out. It cut through the air and went straight for the heart. One person fell. Lung Shichi changed direction and shot another arrow. The second person fell. As for the third person, he had already run far away. However, Lung Shichi did not care. Instead, he searched around the Beilichuan camp. When the last person thought that he had escaped, he suddenly heard the cawing of a crow. He had never seen any birds since he came to Blood Mist Island. He immediately raised his head and saw a purple crow with its sharp claws pouncing in front of him. A rank 1 monster. In the Beilichuan camp, Lung Shichi had a bulging bag on him. It was full of cultivation resources that the Beilichuan had accumulated for a long time. The first gift he gave to Bailey Ching was to destroy his home. At this moment, Ziyu returned. Lung Shichi saw the blood on its claws and knew the result. Take these back to the cave. Lung Shichi tied the bag to Ziyu's leg. As a rank 1 monster, Ziyu flew into the sky effortlessly. Lung Shichi walked to the side of the unconscious man and reached out to check his pulse. "You should wake up in about 1 hour. It's about time," Lung Shichi muttered to himself. After retrieving the 2 arrows, he immediately activated 100 Ghost Parade and left quickly. The place where the cultivation resources were scattered was random. Lung Shichi directly ran towards the nearest one. That was a resource with a blue glow. It should be a spirit skill. 2 groups of people had already arrived at the location of the spirit skill. They were from the Beilichuan and Mo Gate. They knew about yesterday's incident, and now that they met, their eyes were red with jealousy. But before they left, Bailey Ching and Mo had instructed that they could fight for resources, but they must not fight to the death. So these people tried their best to restrain themselves during the fight. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned. Even if they tried to restrain themselves, an accident still happened. Chapter 54. Two groups of people were in the middle of a fight. One of the men from Mo clan could have dodged the opponent's attack, but suddenly his feet seemed to have stepped into a quagmire, and his entire body couldn't help but stagger, only to hear a sound as the icy cold blade pierced into his heart. The young man fell to the ground. The young man holding the blade was also stunned. How did his casual attack kill the opponent? But he immediately realized that something was amiss. Sure enough, when the men from Mo clan saw that one of their own was killed by the men from the Belituan, new and old hatred surged into their hearts. Kill them. The men from Mo clan could no longer control themselves and fought with all their might. The men from the Belituan naturally wouldn't sit still and wait for death. Both sides instantly engaged in a fight. The Lung Shichi, who was hiding underground, quietly left. Not long after, the men from the other two Mo clan and the Belituan also started a fight with real swords and spears. At this moment, in the middle of the withered forest, 50 over people were standing solemnly. Among these 50 over people, the weakest was at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm. But it was obvious that these people belonged to 3 different groups. The 7 people in the lead had a grave expression on their faces. Sect leader. Sect leader. Suddenly, someone ran over quickly from afar and panted as he told Yushu. Sect leader, Lung Shichi has appeared. Right here. Swoosh. Everyone's eyes fell on that person, causing him to suddenly feel an immense pressure. Did you see clearly? Don't get it wrong. Yushu asked. No, I definitely didn't see wrongly. It's definitely Lung Shichi. Yushu, Mo, and Bailey Ching looked at each other and nodded. Act according to the plan. Let's go. Yushu waved his hand and led the 20 men behind him to chase after the messenger, whereas Bailey Ching and Mo went around from the side. A siege against the Lung Shichi had finally begun. Bailey Ching was leading his troops to attack. His mission was to flank Lung Shichi. Thinking that it wouldn't be long before he could get rid of Lung Shichi, the thorn in his side, Bailey Ching felt a burst of joy in his heart. After a while, Bailey Ching heard shouts coming from behind. Leader, wait for me. Commander. Bailey Ching stopped with some doubts. The person who came was Ching 60, his subordinate who was responsible for delivering messages. Bailey Ching waved his hand and said, You don't have to say any more. I already know where Lung Shichi is. Then why did the guild leader go in that direction? The Lung Shichi is clearly over there. Ching 60 was also stunned when he heard this and pointed in another direction. What did you say? When Bailey Ching heard this, he frowned and said in a low voice, Say it again. Commander, Lung Shichi is over there. I saw it with my own eyes. More than a month ago, I saw Lung Shichi with my own eyes. I can't be wrong, Ching 60 said with certainty. Seeing that Ching 60 didn't seem to be lying, Bailey Ching's face became gloomy. He guessed that Yushu's men might have seen wrongly. But if he believed Ching 60, it would be impossible to bring these men to chase after the Lung Shichi. After all, the other party had spiritual skills. If he ran away, there would be no end of trouble. But if they continued to meet up with Yushu and the rest, they would end up empty-handed and create such a big commotion. It was hard to guarantee that the Lung Shichi would not notice. Once the Lung Shichi noticed and hid, they would not have the chance to join forces again. Bailey Ching was in a dilemma. But time waits for no man. Bailey Ching's expression changed rapidly, and after a few breaths, he said resolutely, Let's meet up with the Yushu clan and Mo clan first. Full speed ahead. Then, the dozen or so people spared no spirit energy and quickly left this place. After about 15 minutes, Bailey Ching saw a group of people in the distance. It was the Yushu clan and Mo clan. What's going on? Where's the Lung Shichi? Bailey Ching walked over and asked in confusion. When we arrived, we did not see the Lung Shichi at all. The people here only said that he did show his face, but left quickly. Yushu said in a low voice. On the way here, my men said that they saw the Lung Shichi in another place. Could it be that the people here saw wrongly? Bailey Ching told them that his men had found traces of the Lung Shichi. That's impossible. I was there when the clan leader and the Lung Shichi fought. There's no mistake. The person who reported immediately said immediately. He could not take the blame for this. Maybe the Lung Shichi was just passing by and his target was not here. Don't forget, he has a movement-type spirit skill and his cultivation is high. His speed is much faster than us. It's possible that he appeared in two places at the same time. Yushu analyzed. The others nodded their heads. But just at this moment, two figures ran over one after another and found Bailey Ching and Mo respectively as they muttered something softly. Mo suddenly flew into a rage, but he did not shout. His face was gloomy as ice and his voice was slightly hoarse as he spoke to Bailey Ching. Bailey Ching, last night your men killed people in my territory. For the so-called important matter, I tolerated it. But today, why do you still want to kill me? Do you really think there's no one in my Mo clan? The next moment, Mo Gates' 10 over men stood behind Mo, all of them glaring angrily at Bailey Ching. Bailey Ching naturally knew what was going on. His men had killed Mo clan's men first, and in the end, they fought. It could be said that both sides suffered losses. If this happened on a normal day, it would be fine. After all, both sides were enemies. But not today. Hey, what's the matter with you all? Yesterday, we agreed not to kill. What are you all doing? Yushu's temper rose. Until now, they had not even seen Lung Shichi's shadow, and their own men had already started fighting. I'm not sure about this matter. I've already instructed my men. Perhaps there's an accident. Bailey Ching was somewhat helpless. He faintly felt that the matter had gone out of his control. Mo did not conceal his murderous intent as he stared at Bailey Ching silently, as if he would strike at any time. Yushu blocked in front of him and said, Mo, don't be rash. Listen to me. Bailey Ching, you said your men saw Lung Shichi. Let's not delay and rush over at full speed. If you see Lung Shichi, then join forces to kill him. But if you don't see him, to tell the truth, after creating such a huge commotion twice, even if he is a fool, he would have realized that something is wrong. By then, don't blame me for turning around and leaving. After all, Lung Shichi and I don't have any grudges. Let's go back to our own homes, and I will not interfere in your matters. How about that? Saying that, Yushu and Bailey Ching looked at Mo. Now his attitude was the most important. If he fell out with Bailey Ching, their alliance would be declared broken. This is the last time. Mo's face was gloomy as he squeezed out these words from between his teeth. Phew, Bailey Ching secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Mo would fall out with him. Without the help of Yushu clan and Mo clan, he had no confidence to kill Lung Shichi. Chapter 55. At this moment, Yushu's eyes darted around as he stared at Bailey Ching and said, Since it was your men who discovered it, this time the Bailey regiment will be the main force. Mo Gate and I will flank them. As the main attacker, they would naturally have to face the Lung Shichi first, and their casualties would be the greatest. However, Bailey Ching had no other choice. They had just barely managed to keep Ma's clan, and now they could not provoke the Yushu clan. Bailey Ching pondered for a moment and could only nod helplessly. Then, more than 50 people spread out again and ran in the direction of the Lung Shichi. Along the way, Bailey Ching had a stomach full of anger that he had nowhere to vent. This time, the matter that he had led did not go well, and it made him unusually depressed. When they were about to reach the location, a sudden change occurred. The nearly 20 people from the Belituan suddenly fell into a huge quagmire. Everyone could not control their bodies and fell forward. Bailey Ching was the same. He was even distracted just now, and only regained his senses when his body was about to fall to the ground. Seeing this familiar scene, Bailey Ching suddenly stepped on the ground, and the spiritual power under his feet splashed the mud, and he jumped to the flat ground beside him. At the same time, he suddenly felt a sense of uneasiness in his heart. Bailey Ching thought to himself, "This is bad." Of the remaining people, only 4 or 5 reacted quickly and got out of the quagmire, but most of them fell head first into it. At this moment, a dazzling sword light suddenly appeared from the quagmire. A figure jumped out from below, and a sharp sword in his hand stabbed out continuously. Immediately, blood splattered everywhere and screams sounded. This figure was Lung Shiqi. Cold. 10:7. When Bailey Ching saw Lung Shiqi killing several people with one sword like before, his eyes were bloodshot, and he spat out these 3 words fiercely. He wanted to eat him alive. One had to know that these people were all at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm. They were the backbone of the Bailichuan, and they had the potential to break through to the pure spirit realm in the future. Now, 4 of them had died in one move. 2 of them were injured but didn't die because they reacted faster. Lung Shiqi tilted his head slightly and said indifferently, "Haven't you been looking for me? Now that I've shown myself, why aren't you coming to kill me?" The corners of Bailey Ching's eyes twitched when he heard that. He had the urge to rush forward immediately, but he couldn't do that. Right now, he only had 14 people on his side. These people were not enough to kill Lung Shiqi. What he needed to do now was to drag things out. Once the Yushu clan and Mo Gate arrived, they would surround and kill Lung Shiqi. "Are you waiting for someone?" Lung Shiqi seemed to have seen through Bailey Ching's thoughts and said expressionlessly, "Perhaps they won't be able to come." When Lung Shiqi's words fell into Bailey Ching's ears, he immediately trembled. The ominous premonition in his heart grew even stronger. But after all, he was the leader of a force. His expression changed a few times before he shouted in a low voice, "Don't fight him head on. Drag him down." Lung Shiqi didn't say anything. A black fog rose from his feet, and the 3rd-tier spirit sword in his hand shook out a few sword flowers. He brazenly took the initiative to rush into the crowd. Just as Lung Shiqi was fighting with the Bailichuan's people, Mo suddenly stopped in his tracks. The pure spirit realm cultivator beside him, Mo too, asked doubtfully, "Sovereign, why did you stop? Why didn't we stop? Don't tell me we're going to help them kill Lung Shiqi." Mo snorted lightly. "Then what about us? They're the ones who have a grudge with Lung Shiqi. What does it have to do with us? Let them fight to the death and both sides suffer. This is the most beneficial for us." Mo's eyes shone brightly as he continued, "Let's move forward slowly. If they meet Lung Shiqi, they will definitely fight. Rumor has it that Lung Shiqi has the ability to kill a 1st-tier demonic beast alone. So no matter who wins, Yushu clan and Bailichuan will suffer heavy losses. To our Mo clan, they're the biggest threat. If we don't meet Lung Shiqi, then our alliance will naturally disband. At that time, we will stab the Bailichuan in the back and settle the old and new grudges together." Mo too clapped his hands and said, "Sovereign is wise. Previously, we intentionally agreed to join forces with them and let the Yushu clan and Bailichuan kill that Lung Shiqi. Then we could sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight." Mo's lips curled into a crafty smile. On the other side, the Yushu clan's group was really moving forward at full speed. The young man named Qi Shui beside Yushu asked, "Sovereign, are we really going to join forces with them to kill Lung Shiqi?" "Of course," Yushu replied without turning his head. "But I feel that Sovereign and Lung Shiqi don't have any grudges. No matter how strong he is, he won't be able to threaten our Yushu clan." "Why?" Before Qi Shui could finish his words, Yushu tilted his head and glanced at him. "How do you know that I don't have any grudges with him?" Isn't this what Sovereign said?" Qi Shui's eyes widened slightly, revealing a strange expression. "Do you really believe what I say?" Yushu replied snappily. He then turned around and continued to run. But at this moment, a few crows' caws were heard from the sky. Yushu paused and looked up at the sky. He saw a purple crow circling above their heads. 1st-tier demonic beast. "Oh no! Attack!" Bailey Ching waved his hand. More than 10 people raised their hands and shot out all kinds of hidden weapons. Lung Shiqi used the ghost parade and confusion steps at the same time, constantly shifting his body. At the same time, the sharp sword in his hand turned into a sword flower, blocking the many hidden weapons with clanking sounds. But his black robe was still cut a few times. Bailey Ching seized the opportunity and roared. His refined spear suddenly swept horizontally in the air, drawing a cross in the shape of a cross. Then, the spear pierced forward with a sharp light. Heavy cross spear, facing a second-tier spiritual skill. Even Lung Shiqi didn't dare to be careless. But at this moment, more than 10 people attacked at the same time. In Bailey Ching's opinion, Lung Shiqi would be seriously injured if not killed. Unfortunately, just as Bailey Ching's heavy cross spear was about to pierce Lung Shiqi opened his mouth and let out a deafening roar. A formless sound wave spread out from his mouth. Sonic shockwave. The strong sound waves shook everyone's heads, causing a buzzing sound to ring in their heads. Bailey Ching, who was at the 3rd level of the pure spirit realm, was the same. He was right in front of Lung Shiqi and bore the brunt of the attack. At this moment, his mind was in chaos. Without the support of spirit force, the heavy cross spear naturally dissipated. Lung Shiqi took this opportunity to point his spirit sword. His whole body faintly emitted a sense of elegance. The killer move Chaotic Blossoms, gradually mesmerizing, was used. Lung Shiqi's body turned into several phantoms, and the cold sword light flashed rapidly. Just as Lung Shiqi's sword was about to pierce Bailey Ching's throat, Bailey Ching suddenly bit the tip of his tongue and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He recovered his consciousness because of this. In this life and death crisis, he only cared about holding the spear in front of him. Poochie, poochie, ding. The sound of sharp blade cutting through skin rang out. 5 people fell one after another. The last sword cut through Bailey Ching's spear, creating dazzling sparks. As long as he spread the cultivation method and spent a lot of resources, he would be able to nurture a group of Spirit Assembly Level 9 subordinates in a short period of time. The direction he was currently flying in was indeed the direction where the Yushu clan was rushing over. As long as he could meet up with the Yushu clan, Yushu, an expert at the 4th level of the pure spirit realm, would be able to hold back Lung Shiqi. The others would surround and ambush him from the side, and they would be able to exhaust him to death. Lung Shiqi saw that Bailey Ching was escaping and wanted to chase after him. Unexpectedly, a person blocked his path. It was a black-faced youth. His original name was Blood 51, but after breaking through to the pure spirit realm, he changed his name to Blood is no different. You want to stop me? Lung Shiqi narrowed his eyes and asked with a hint of interest. At this moment, Lung Shiqi's black robe was stained with blood, and there were nearly 10 ice-cold corpses lying crookedly behind him. Although his tone was calm, it was enough to send chills down one's spine. That's right. Blood is no different swallowed his saliva and gathered all his courage to shout out these 2 words. You know that you can't stop me. They are the wise choice. Lung Shiqi caught a glimpse of Bailey Ching's figure getting farther and farther away, but he didn't rush to chase after him. Instead, he pointed behind him with his thumb and said to Blood is no different faintly, as if he was chatting with a friend. Blood is no different also saw that the remaining people behind him were fleeing in all directions. His eyes were filled with determination as he said, even if you can't stop him, you have to. Why? Lung Shiqi was really interested in Blood is no different. On this Blood Fog Island, there was someone who was willing to die for others. He saved my life. It's only right that I return the favor. Blood is no different raised his head slightly and said stubbornly. Lung Shiqi was slightly stunned when he heard this, but then he nodded and directly bypassed Blood is no different. Blood is no different suddenly lost sight of Lung Shiqi's figure. He knew that something was wrong and sighed inwardly before closing his eyes. Blood is no different was waiting for death. If one looked closely, one could see that his entire body was trembling slightly and cold sweat was dripping down his forehead. However, after waiting for a while, he found that he was still fine. Blood is no different suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with endless shock. Then he murmured, "He didn't kill me. How is this possible?" Blood is no different had experienced life and death in such a short period of time. After experiencing the terror of life and death, his body suddenly collapsed on the ground and he gasped for breath. At this time, Lung Shichi was already far away on the black smoke. He swallowed a pill to recover his spiritual power and chased after Bailey Qing. However, he didn't chase for long before he frowned. He saw a group of people rushing over from afar. The one in the lead was Yushu. Lung Shichi thought, "Why are they here so quickly?" Previously, Lung Shichi had sent Ziyu to stop the Yushu clan. He also knew that the Yushu clan was very strong, so he gave the order to retreat immediately if they were injured. However, Lung Shichi didn't expect that Ziyu, a rank 1 beast that could fly, would be injured in such a short period of time. Yushu, you can't underestimate him. At this time, Bailey Qing had already met up with Yushu. He immediately said, "We were ambushed by Lung Shichi. He has a sound-type spiritual technique that is very difficult to deal with. My people suffered heavy losses. We're the people from Mo clan." Yushu saw Bailey Qing running over alone and knew that things weren't good. However, he still didn't see any sign of Mo clan, which made him even more uneasy. "I don't know." Bailey Qing's face was also ashen. "I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but I encountered a rank 1 beast on the way here. I used some methods to repel it. Maybe Mo clan is also in trouble. That's too much of a coincidence. There must be something fishy," Bailey Qing said with a gloomy face. That's Lung Shichi." Yushu seemed to want to say something, but suddenly saw a figure in the distance and exclaimed. Bailey Qing saw Lung Shichi from afar and actually felt a little afraid in his heart. He naturally knew that Lung Shichi was chasing after him. Bailey Qing quickly said, "He is already injured and has consumed a lot of his spiritual power. We can't let go of this opportunity." Yushu's expression changed several times. Finally, he gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice, "Kill!" Immediately, Yushu and the other 3 pure spirit realm cultivators rushed out with 29th level spirit gathering realm cultivators. Target Lung Shichi. Chapter 57. Lung Shichi's expression did not change in the slightest as he faced more than 20 people charging at him. He turned from running to walking. With every step he took, his breathing became steadier. With every step he took, his aura became sharper. With every step he took, his fighting spirit became higher. He began to feel the blood in his body boiling. Lung Shichi walked to a rock that was half the height of a person and placed 1 foot on it. At the same time, he waved his hand, and a heavy bow and arrow appeared in his hand. It was the tendon-changing bow. Then he knocked the arrow and drew the bow almost instantly. Lung Shichi narrowed his eyes and drew the bow to a full moon. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit and killing intent. However, Lung Shichi was not in a hurry to shoot. He was waiting for the enemy to enter the best shooting range. Yushu saw Lung Shichi take out the bow and hurriedly reminded everyone, "Everyone, be careful." Everyone was on high alert. Lung Shichi drew the bow and gathered his strength. The spirit power in his body circulated, and a touch of spirit light appeared on the arrowhead. Then, with a whoosh, the sharp arrow shot out. Everyone was prepared for this, and they immediately spread out. The weakest person here was at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm. No one reacted slowly. The arrow was about to miss when Lung Shichi's eyes suddenly lit up. The arrow that was shot out suddenly changed direction in mid-air. This was something that no one had expected. The sharp arrow accurately hit one of them in the heart, and he immediately fell to the ground, unable to get up. Seeing this strange scene, everyone subconsciously stopped in their tracks and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Everyone began to look at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. What kind of arrow was this? It could actually change directions? How could they dodge an arrow that could change directions? At this moment, Bailey Ching turned pale with fright as if he had seen a ghost. He had completely lost his usual shrewdness. When Yushu saw this, he frowned and said, "I say, Bailey Ching, you're also too useless, right? Ghost. Ghost archery technique. How is this possible? It's impossible." Bailey Ching continued to mutter to himself. When Yushu saw that Bailey Ching was ignoring him, anger rose in his heart. However, he faintly heard Bailey Ching mention something about the phantom archery. He immediately grabbed Bailey Ching's collar and hurriedly asked, "You know this archery skill? Is there any way to break it?" Bailey Ching gradually calmed down and said in a low voice, "This is a rank 2 spiritual skill, ghost archery, that I obtained not long ago. However, this spiritual skill is very difficult to cultivate. Not only must one have extremely strong control over spiritual energy, but one must also have extraordinary spiritual energy and talent in order to successfully cultivate it. If one were to master it, they would be able to control the direction of the arrow in midair with their mental strength. It would be like a ghost, following the body like a shadow. It would be impossible to guard against. Then how do I dodge?" Before Yushu could say a word, he saw Lung Shichi draw his bow again, and there were 2 arrows on the bowstring. The group suddenly panicked because no one knew who Lung Shichi's target was. This fear of the unknown was the scariest. Just like before, the 2 sharp arrows suddenly changed directions in midair. The first arrow was aimed at the heart of a small-eyed youth. The youth's reaction was quite fast. He dodged and waved his sword in an attempt to block the arrow. Unfortunately, just as the arrow was about to hit his heart, it changed direction and hit the space between his eyebrows. The other arrow also took the life of another person. This strange archery skill was really like a ghost that crawled out of the underworld. They had already lost 3 people before the real fight. Yushu suddenly felt distressed and then shouted, "We can't go on like this. Spread out and charge with all your strength. As long as we get close, he will naturally not be able to use his archery skills. Charge!" Everyone knew that unless they turned around and left now, if they wanted to kill Lung Shichi, they had to charge forward. Lung Shichi's lips curled up slightly. The leg that was stepping on the stone suddenly straightened. Then he held the longbow in his hand horizontally, opened his 5 fingers, and took out 4 arrows and knocked them on the bowstring. He channeled his spirit energy, and his voice spread far and wide. He said, "Guess who will die this time?" Lung Shichi's voice clearly reached everyone's ears, causing a sense of panic in their hearts, especially those spirit cultivators in the spirit gathering realm. One must know that there were only 15 of them left, for arrows meant that 4 of them would be lying here forever. In total, everyone had a 25% chance of being shot. Could it be me? The 15 spirit gathering cultivators thought to themselves. The more they thought about it, the more afraid they became. Gradually, some of them had other thoughts. They were Yushu's subordinates, but they were not death warriors. They could fight for Yushu, but they would not die for him. In the blink of an eye, 2 people in the crowd actually scattered and fled. Seeing this, Yushu was shocked and angry. He unsheathed his dagger and released a dazzling light. He said angrily, "If there are any more deserters, they will be killed without mercy." Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Just as Yushu's voice fell, for sharp arrows had already shot over. Pooh, pooh, pooh. In the blink of an eye, 3 people fell. Another arrow was chopped into 2 by Yushu's saber halfway through its journey. Sect Leader Yu's blade is so fast. Lung Shichi's voice was heard again, but in the next moment he suddenly kicked out and sent the stone in front of him flying. Then he used the ghost parade to turn around and run. Because the distance between them was very close, at least some of the hidden weapons were enough to shoot over. Boom! Yushu's sharp blade cut the flying stone in half, but it also successfully stopped him for 2 breaths of time. Looking at Lung Shichi's back as he quickly left, Yushu's face was gloomy as he said hatefully, He actually cultivated another light body type spirit technique. Sect leader, are we still chasing? At this time, a young girl's voice sounded from the side. She was the only girl among them, a spirit cultivator of the pure spirit realm, Hua Lingling. It was just that her voice was trembling. We must chase. Now that things have reached this point, there is no room for negotiation. Pass down the order. Let all Yushu's sect members surround and kill Lung Shichi. Even if we have to sacrifice our lives, we have to kill him. Yushu's eyes revealed madness. Since he had done it, he had to do it to the end. Bailey Qing also agreed to let all the people of the Bilichuan block Lung Shichi. Continue chasing. For Lung Shichi, his speed was faster than Yushu's. After opening up a distance, he pointed his foot forward and his entire body instantly stopped. Immediately after, the tip of his foot drew a semicircle on the ground, and his body suddenly turned around. He knocked a bow and shot an arrow in one go. So, the arrow shot out. Lung Shichi's unexpected arrow took away another person. Now, there were only 9 people at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm, and 4 people at the pure spirit realm left. Next, Lung Shichi used the same trick again and shot 2 arrows in a row, but unfortunately, only one arrow hit and the other arrow was blocked by Yushu. At this time, Lung Shichi put away the tendon-changing bow because he no longer had a bow and arrow. Then he also stopped. It was not that he did not want to run, but he had to stop because another group of people was walking in front of him. It was the people of Immerse sect. In addition, there were some figures slowly approaching from all directions. Chapter 58. When Bailey Qing saw Lung Shichi being blocked by Mo clan's men and without his bow and arrow, he burst out laughing. Aha! Lung Shichi, let's see where you can run now. Don't act rashly. Let's surround them first. Yushu shouted loudly. This sentence was not only directed to Bailey Qing, but also to Mo. Mo was feeling a little dazed at this moment. Originally, he had brought his subordinates and was just wandering around aimlessly and didn't head in the direction they had agreed on. But just by walking around aimlessly, they actually bumped into Lung Shichi. This disrupted his plan of sitting on top of the mountain and watching the tigers fight. Mo took a careful look at Yushu's group of men. Originally, there should be 30 over elites from both sides, but now there were only 10 over people left. Especially when he saw Bailey Qing's lone look, Mo Yi's eyelids twitched. He now had a feeling of riding a tiger and not being able to get off. Make a move against Lung Shichi. Not to mention if they could kill him, Mo clan would definitely lose some men, and this went against his original intention of reaping the benefits. Moreover, he had no enmity with Lung Shichi, and if he didn't kill him after making a move, then he would have offended a strong enemy for no reason. But since he had blocked off Lung Shichi, if he were to let him off openly, he would definitely face the combined suppression of Yushu clan and Bilichuan. Don't think that they had suffered heavy losses, but their foundation was still there. Mo indicated for his subordinates to hold back first. Lung Shichi saw that Mo didn't let his men surround him, and his heart skipped a beat as he said loudly, Clan Master Mo, this is the first time we've met. It's an honor to meet you. First meeting meant that there was no enmity between them. He continued, why don't Mo clan let me go? Lung Shichi owes you a favor, and I dare to guarantee that in future Yushu clan and Bilichuan will not join hands to exact revenge on you, because they have to be wary of me at all times. As long as someone dared to show their face, they had to be prepared to lose their head at any time. Furthermore, I've also heard that Sect Master Mo and the Bilichuan have been on bad terms for the past 2 days. In order to express my sincerity, I've also prepared a small gift for Sect Master Mo. Look, the gift is almost here. Lung Shichi had just finished his sentence, and Mo was still puzzled when he saw a figure hurriedly running in front of Bailey Qing as he panted. Commander, not good. Our camp has been ambushed. The brothers who stayed behind were all dead, and all the cultivation resources were gone. They're all gone. It turned out that this person was the person that Lung Shichi had deliberately knocked out in the Bilichuan camp. When he woke up, he saw the corpses strewn all over the camp, and then looked at the empty resources. He knew that something was wrong, and hurriedly ran over to inform Bailey Ching. When Bailey Ching heard this, he immediately turned pale with fright. He completely lost his sense of propriety. He violently grabbed that person's collar and roared with a ferocious expression, "You! Speak! What? Is that so?" Those cultivation resources were his capital, his foundation. Gone just like that? Who did it? That person had never seen Bailey Ching in such a terrifying state, so he was so scared that his mouth started to tremble. No, I don't know. That person was wearing a mask, so we couldn't see his face. His wrists were also covered by his clothes, so we couldn't see his name. You're saying just one person, and he defeated all of you? Bailey Ching went into a blank when he heard this. Yes. Trash. Bailey Ching could no longer control himself as he violently threw that person out, crashing heavily onto the ground. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared intently at Lung Shiqi, as though he couldn't wait to use his gaze to slice him into 1,000 pieces. He wasn't sure if that person was Lung Shiqi, but he was definitely related to him. But Bailey Ching didn't dare to rush up. At this moment, Lung Shiqi gave a harmless smile to Moe and said, "Sect Master Mo, do you like this little gift?" Moe's gaze kept darting around. Earlier, he was most afraid that after he let Lung Shiqi off, he would suffer the joint revenge of the Yushu clan and the Beilichuan. But now Lung Shiqi had directly helped him to resolve this concern. The Beilichuan's elites had all fallen, and its foundation had been destroyed. How many people would continue to follow him after this? The Beilichuan only existed in name. As for the Yushu clan, just like what Lung Shiqi had said, they were now in a situation where they would not rest until one of them was dead. The Yushu clan was already under the watch of such a strong enemy. So where would they find the time to take revenge on the Mo sect? Thinking of this, Moe's heart was moved. As though he saw through Moe's thoughts, Yushu hurriedly shouted, "Sect Master Mo, you can't believe his nonsense. Your appearance here means that you've joined forces with us. How can Lung Shiqi not see through this? He's a vengeful person, and if you let him off, he will still take revenge on you." Rubbish. I've always been kind to others, and if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. They know very well how they have offended me. So, Sect Master Mo, please don't believe the words of a villain. Lung Shiqi put on an imposing manner as he spoke. The most crucial point of the entire situation was Moe's decision. But at this moment, he started to hesitate. Lung Shiqi glanced around and realized that there were more and more people crowding around, and they were getting closer and closer. He immediately said, "Sect Master Mo, I won't make things difficult for you. You can choose not to move aside. As long as you promise not to make a move, I'll owe you a favor. How about that?" When Moe heard that, his eyes lit up. He didn't retreat, but neither did he make a move. Not only could he answer to the Yushu clan, he could also earn a favor from Lung Shiqi. "Stay where you are and await my orders." Moe immediately made a decision and ordered. His action was equivalent to acknowledging Lung Shiqi's words. Yushu's face was gloomy. He had not expected Mo's sect to go back on their words at the last minute, but at this moment, he had no choice but to release the arrow. He shouted softly, "Kill!" Following that, with Yushu as the leader, Bailey Ching, Hua Lingling, Qi Shui, and 9 other 9th-level spirit-gathering cultivators charged over. Lung Shiqi's eyes narrowed, and his battle intent increased. He didn't evade and instead charged forward. In Lung Shiqi's eyes, the only real opponent was Yushu. His feet stepped on a dark fog as he raised his spirit sword and pierced towards Yushu. Yushu's short sword was unsheathed and directly slashed out a blade shadow. Ding, ding, dang, dang, dang. The two of them exchanged blows, and instantly there were bursts of metal clashing sounds as sparks kept bursting out. After a short exchange, the two of them quickly separated again. Pure Spirit Realm, 5th level. Yushu personally exchanged blows with Lung Shiqi and was shocked to discover that the other party's cultivation was actually at the 5th level of the Pure Spirit Realm. TSK. So what if you're at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm? Let me see how much spirit power you have left. Yushu sneered and attacked again. At the same time, the other people had also arrived and displayed their strongest spirit skills. This time, Lung Shichi did not fight head-on. At the same time, he used the 100 Ghost Parade and Confusion Steps and narrowly avoided all the attacks. The next moment, he took a few steps and stabbed towards Yushu again. Still the same old trick. If you only have this ability, please enter the ground. Yushu's face showed a touch of disdain. However, at this moment, the speed of Lung Shichi's sword suddenly became faster, as fast as lightning. Rushing Thunder Sword? Bailey Qing on the side exclaimed again. This was a sword skill that he had collected. How could Lung Shichi use it? If once was a coincidence, how could it be a coincidence twice in a row? Bailey Qing said angrily. Lung Shichi, it really is you. Chapter 59. When Bailey Qing saw that Lung Shichi had used this spiritual technique, he immediately guessed that Lung Shichi was the one who had wiped out his campsite. He immediately rushed over with a grimace. However, Lung Shichi's Thunder Rush sword was out of Yushu's expectations. Yushu hurriedly shifted his body, but Lung Shichi was faster than him. With a chi sound, Lung Shichi's spiritual sword pierced Yushu's left shoulder. Sect leader! Sect leader! A few Yushu clan men saw that Yushu was injured and immediately charged over. From afar, Immerse saw that Yushu had been injured so easily, and a sliver of suspicion surfaced in his heart. He secretly thought, something's not right. Yushu is extremely slippery. How did he get injured after just a few moves? On the other side, Lung Shichi also faintly felt that something was wrong. This sword strike of his was indeed a small trump card, and could be considered to have caught his opponent off guard. But it was too smooth. In his estimation, Yushu might be flustered, but he shouldn't have been stabbed directly. Sure enough, at this moment, a sinister smile appeared on Yushu's face. Yushu's left hand turned into a claw and grabbed Lung Shichi's wrist. Brother Lung, did you really think that I would be careless? Lung Shichi secretly knew that things were not going well. When he wanted to withdraw his sword and retreat, he was held tightly by Yushu. At the next moment, Lung Shichi only saw a flash of dazzling sword light in front of his eyes. Yushu had slashed out an astonishing sword, and the spiritual light on his sword body was rapidly swallowing, emitting bursts of sharp intent. The two of them were so close that Lung Shichi could not evade this sword. At the same time, Bailey Qing's fatal cross spear and the other people's attacks had drowned Lung Shichi. This time, Lung Shichi will definitely die. At this moment, everyone's heart was thinking this, including Immerse. Immerse was already regretting at this moment. He really did not expect that Yushu would dare to use himself as bait and his own body as a shackle to restrain Lung Shichi. He was really not afraid that he would be stabbed to death by Lung Shichi if he was not careful. Unfortunately, things did not go as he wished. Just when everyone thought that Lung Shichi was dead, there was a sudden change. A dazzling spiritual light suddenly gushed out from Lung Shichi's body and condensed into a spiritual shield which enveloped him. Everyone's attacks landed on the spiritual barrier, and the spiritual barrier suddenly trembled violently. In just 2 or 3 breaths, it disappeared without a trace. However, the shield's only's breath was slightly disrupted and was not injured. He had activated the spirit protection ring at the most crucial moment. This sudden scene stunned everyone. Apparently, they did not expect Lung Shichi to have such a trick up his sleeve. Lung Shichi took advantage of Yushu's moment of absent-mindedness and retracted his sword and clenched his fist. All the spiritual energy in his body surged into his fist and immediately blasted out, displaying a strong and ferocious power. Tiger breaking 3 waves fist. When Lung Shichi's fist started to move, Yushu finally regained his senses. It was too late to dodge. Yushu hardened his heart and directly pulled a person beside him to block in front of him. Bam! Lung Shiqi's fist landed on that person, and his body immediately arched and twitched continuously. His mouth opened, and he spat out viscous blood. But Lung Shiqi's fist did not stop there. He continued to move forward, and his fist landed on Yushu's body. Roar! All of a sudden, Lung Shiqi's fist emitted a loud and clear tiger roar. A hidden force passed through that person's body and entered Yushu's body. Yushu spat out blood and flew back. Lung Shiqi retracted his fist and stood straight, but his face was pale, and he began to gasp for breath. At this moment, Yushu's eyes were filled with horror. First, it was the spirit protection ring, then such a powerful punch. How strong was his opponent? How many unknown methods did he have? For the first time, Yushu's heart actually had a trace of fear toward the person. But when he saw Lung Shiqi's state, he immediately wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and forcibly suppressed the chaotic spiritual energy in his body. Instead, he laughed. Ha! Lung Shiqi, you're very good, you're very strong, I'm not your opponent. But so what? In the end, you're just one person. Although Yushu was seriously injured, he still had Qi Shui, Hua Lingling, and Bailey Qing, 3 pure spirit realm cultivators by his side. There were also several spirit cultivators at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm. In addition, there were still many sect members at the 7th or 8th level of the spirit gathering realm rushing over. No matter how strong you are, without spirit power, what can you do? Yushu continued. Lung Shiqi looked at the hundreds of figures that were swarming towards him from all directions. They had already formed a circle and surrounded him. It seemed that he couldn't escape even if he had wings. Lung Shiqi simply clapped his hands and said weakly, "That's right, my spirit power is almost exhausted and I don't have any ability to resist. But which one of you will kill me?" "Who? Come, kill me." These 4 words were imprinted in everyone's minds, and they remembered how terrifying the person in front of them was. Facing the pursuit of the elite spirit cultivators of the Belichuan and the Yushu clan, first he almost wiped out the Belichuan's elites, then he heavily injured the Yushu clan. Such a terrifying person. Even if he had no spirit power at this time, no one dared to go up and kill him. What big words! I'll kill you. Bailey Qing couldn't stand it anymore. He desperately raised his spear and was about to stab over. Who would have thought that he would be stopped by Yushu? "Don't stop me," Bailey Qing roared. "Are you crazy? What if he has some strange methods and pulls you down with him before he dies? Wouldn't you have died in vain? I'm trying to save you," Yushu said sincerely and earnestly. "And?" Bailey Qing stared at Yushu suspiciously, but he still obediently stopped. "Everyone, if you have hidden weapons, throw them. If you don't, throw your weapons. If you don't, spit on him. Throw him to death." After Yushu grabbed Bailey Qing, he immediately changed his expression and bared his teeth as he shouted. When the surrounding people heard this, it was as if they were enlightened. They all picked up their weapons and looked at Yushu as if he was a tall mountain. They didn't think of such a brilliant method as expected of the clan leader. Facing Yushu's method, Lung Shiqi shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "This is no fun. Forget it, I won't play with you anymore. Let's meet again." After saying this, Lung Shiqi raised his hand and threw out a gray stone. Seeing Lung Shiqi throw out something, everyone subconsciously took a step back. In the next moment, thick, pungent smoke quickly spread out from the stone. In the blink of an eye, it covered an area of more than 100 feet and was still expanding. Everyone immediately covered their mouths and noses and hurriedly retreated. They only heard Lung Shiqi say, "It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Everyone will settle our debts in the future." After a while, everyone left the area covered by the smoke. When the smoke dissipated, Lung Shiqi's shadow was nowhere to be seen. Yushu's face was ashen at this moment. He originally thought that Lung Shiqi had no chance of survival. He even sold a favor to Bailey Qing and planned to see if he could convince him after this. Now he knew that he had thought too much. They had planned for so long and paid so much, but in the end, Lung Shiqi still escaped. He couldn't help but have many complicated emotions in his heart. There was shock, regret, helplessness, and a trace of fear. They would probably have to live under Lung Shiqi's shadow for a long time in the future. In the end, Yushu could only sigh deeply and leave with his people. As for Bailey Qing, there were 20 to 30 people gathered around him. They were all at the 6th or 7th level of the spirit gathering realm. Just as he was about to bring them back to recuperate, he was stopped by Moe. Bailey Qing's heart thumped and his expression turned gloomy as he said sternly, Moe, what do you mean? Humph, last night you killed my men right under my nose. Beilichuan, how awe-inspiring. Today, I'm going to take revenge for my dead brothers. Kill. Take revenge. Take revenge. Mo's sex people charged over in a frenzy. Nightfall. A wretched figure was stumbling as he ran. Gradually, he realized that the fog around him was getting thicker. This person revealed a smile and muttered to himself, almost there, almost there. As long as I can find the people from Battle Sect, I can live. This person was Bailey Qing, who was besieged by Mo's sect and had risked his life to escape to this place. Just as a glimmer of hope rose in his heart, the next moment, a voice that seemed to come from the depths of hell rang in his ears. Bailey Qing, have you ever experienced despair? Chapter 60. In the withered forest area, it had been a day since the 3 major forces besieged Lung Shiqi. In this short period of time, the situation in the withered forest had undergone a major change. The original 3 major forces had become 2 major forces. Beilichuan had been destroyed. Yushu Clan's clan master was seriously injured, and more than half of his 9th-level spirit gathering elites had died. In this battle, only Mo clan had not fought with Lung Shiqi, and none of Mo's elites had suffered any injuries. As a result, Mo Gate, which had originally been the weakest, had now become the strongest. On this day, Yushu had asked someone to set up a tent outside Yushu clan. Yushu sat alone in the tent, bitterly chewing on a fruit. Pooh! After 2 bites, Yushu spat it out. Not sweet, not sweet. He casually threw the fruit to one side. At this moment, Hua Lingling and Qi Shui each carried 2 wooden boxes as they walked in. Yushu nodded to the both of them and said, "Just leave it there. Both of you can go back." Hua Lingling and Qi Shui looked at each other and said worriedly, "Clan Master, won't it be too dangerous for you to be here alone? Lung Shiqi could find you anytime." "Don't worry, I'll be fine. Both of you should go back quickly. With both of you here, my subordinates will be more at ease." Yushu waved his hand casually. The both of them nodded and left the tent. Yushu stood up and walked to the 4 wooden boxes. He stretched out his hand and patted it lightly. Not knowing what he thought, he suddenly sighed. Then he said to the air, "Since Brother Lung is here, why don't you come out and meet me?" Immediately, a figure strangely floated out from the ground behind Yushu. It was Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi asked with interest, "How did Clan Master you know that I'm here?" Murderous intent. When Hua Lingling and Qi Shui came in, I felt a faint murderous aura. I think that other than Brother Lung, no one else would reveal killing intent towards 2 spirit cultivators of the pure spirit realm. Yushu replied honestly. "So that's how it is." Lung Shiqi nodded in understanding, secretly blaming himself for not being cautious enough. Before the 2 of them arrived, I didn't sense any killing intent. Can I assume that Brother Lung doesn't want to kill me? Yushu chuckled, his tone completely like he was chatting with a familiar friend. Lung Shiqi raised his eyebrows and crossed his arms in front of him. "That will depend on Sect Master Yu's sincerity." "Absolutely sincere." Yushu's voice suddenly became louder, his face filled with a warm smile. With a bang, he opened the wooden box beside him and said enthusiastically, "Brother Lung, please take a look. There are a total of 5 tier 2 spirit tools inside. Look at this spear. It's shiny silver. Wouldn't it blind the enemy's dog eyes with one stab? Also, this staff is not simple at all. It weighs more than 100 kilograms. Smashing it down, it can easily create a hole. Yushu boasted about how powerful these spirit tools were and even personally demonstrated them, using the saber, spear, and staff very well. Then, Yushu opened one box after another. Spirit stones, pills, wondrous items, spirit skills, everything was there. There were even more treasures than the collection of the Supreme Assembly. However, these are not the most precious, Yushu said, his face revealing a somewhat mysterious expression. He picked up a small box and slowly opened it, whetting the appetite of others. However, Lung Shichi was expressionless from beginning to end, quietly watching Yushu's harp performance. It was just that when he was looking at a few spirit skills, he was quite serious. In fact, he had already used his unlimited skill points to learn them. Brother Lung, you should know that the foundation of our spirit cultivation lies in our cultivation methods. With a good cultivation method, cultivation will naturally be twice the result with half the effort. This Level 2 cultivation method, Yang Spirit Manual, is a gift to you. Lung Shichi picked up the Yang Spirit Manual and carefully looked at it, then put it back. Brother Lung, I wonder how sincere I am? Yushu was still smiling as he asked carefully. Very sincere. I deeply feel it, so I appreciate it. Lung Shichi put down the cultivation method and said softly, no emotions could be heard in his tone. Appreciate it? Yushu heard, and his heart skipped a beat. This was all the cultivation resources of his Yushu clan, and Lung Shichi did not want it. Could it be that he did not like it? He immediately asked, then what do you want, Brother Lung? The expression in Lung Shichi's eyes changed. He pondered for a moment and said, I want your Yushu clan. Yushu heard this, and the smile on his face disappeared. His eyes faintly revealed a few traces of sternness. Lung Shichi continued, however, you are still the leader of the Yushu clan. I do not want any of these cultivation resources. I can even secretly help you unify the withered forest. What I want is the Yushu clan submission. Yushu heard this, and many thoughts flashed through his mind. He asked, you mean you want to be the boss behind the scenes? Lung Shichi glanced at him and said, I am very pleased that you can understand it this way. What will happen after you obtain the entire Yushu clan submission? What exactly do you want? Every time you fight for a cultivation method or spirit skill, you have to let me see it first. However, I will not destroy it and will still return it to you. In addition, you just have to provide me with the necessary spirit stones and spirit pills. Yushu revealed a somewhat surprised expression and said, It's that simple. It's that simple. But this makes me feel uneasy, because I am lazy. Yushu, Lung Shichi walked to the entrance of the tent and turned his back. Yushu, you only have to know one thing. If I kill you, I can still easily control the Yushu clan. However, I'm a very lazy person. I am too lazy to manage a force, and I'm also too lazy to run around and fight for resources every time. Do you understand? I understand. It sounds like I am not at a disadvantage. However, you're letting me go just like that? You believe me? Yushu still found it somewhat hard to believe that Lung Shichi would let him go so easily. Of course not. That is why you need to eat this. Lung Shichi took out a black spirit pill as he spoke. It was the heart destruction pill. Yushu's heart thumped, and his expression instantly changed. After hesitating for a moment, he still received the pill. Although his life would be in Lung Shichi's hands from now on, being at his mercy, but it was still better than losing his life now. But when he received the pill, he immediately shouted, Ugh, what is this smell? Do you really want to eat it? Lung Shichi kept his mouth shut, and his expression gradually turned cold. All right, I'll eat it all right, Yushu said as he pinched his nose and swallowed the pill. Following that, he clutched his neck and started retching. Lung Shichi looked at him speechlessly and said, All right, stop acting. Next, let's prepare for Mo clan's attack. Mo clan. Yushu went into a blank and immediately laughed out loud. Haha, Mo, that two-faced, timid fellow. How would he have the guts to attack Yushu clan? Lung Shichi's eyes flashed a glint of brilliance. So, we must create an opportunity for him. Chapter 61. When Yushu returned to Yushu clan, he wasn't alone. Beside him was a mysterious man wearing a large black cloak with a hood and a dark gold mask. Yushu clan members saw their clan leader inviting the mysterious man in warmly, and following that, he called Hua Lingling and Qi Shui over. Not long later, Hua Lingling and Qi Shui walked out furiously. Following that, Yushu announced that the newly joined Dark Crow would be the deputy clan leader of Yushu clan from today onwards. This person who came out of nowhere actually became the deputy clan leader. Many people in the clan had many complaints, but they kept it in their hearts and didn't dare to voice it out. On the second day, what no one expected was that Hua Lingling and Qi Shui actually brought people to leave Yushu clan, intending to set up their own clan. They even brought away half of the clan members. Yushu was seething with anger, but due to his serious injuries, he wasn't able to keep the two of them and could only threaten to tear them into pieces. There were even rumors that Yushu was so angry that he threw up several mouthfuls of blood, and his injuries seemed to have worsened. All sorts of unfavorable news towards Yushu clan kept on spreading. At this moment, in Yushu clan's clan leader's tent, Yushu was munching on fruits with a leisurely look on his face. There wasn't any look of him throwing up blood from anger. Beside him was a black figure sitting cross-legged. "Hey, Brother Long, can such a clumsy method really lure Mo-e over?" Yushu finished a fruit and asked the person beside him. That black figure was naturally Lung Shichi, who was using the identity of Dark Crow. Lung Shichi shot a glance at him and said, "The method doesn't matter if it's brilliant or clumsy, as long as it's effective. You must know that Mo-e had always been suppressed by you and Bailey Qing, so you don't know how much resentment he has in his heart. Right now, more than half of the Yushu clan's elites have died, and you're heavily injured. 2 of your pure spirit realm subordinates have set up their own clan. This was definitely the best opportunity to destroy the Yushu clan and unify the Withered Forest." Moreover, he didn't have much time to think about it, because the longer he delayed, the more his strength would recover. Therefore, even if he guessed that this might be a trap, he would still give it a try. "Also, I'm now Dark Crow." Yes, Brother Dark Crow. But there's something I don't know if I should ask." Lung Shichi looked at Yushu and knew he couldn't ask anything good. He said, "Then don't ask." Cough. "Actually, I just want to know something. Didn't you say before that you wouldn't attack Mo Gate?" Yushu licked his lips and asked. "Back then, I had no enmity or grudge with Mo Gate. However, things are different now." "Oh, Mo Gate had offended you these 2 days?" Yushu was puzzled. Because these 2 days, he had been with Lung Shichi and hadn't met anyone from Mo Gate. Now that the Yushu clan has submitted to me, if Mo Gate attacks the Yushu clan, wouldn't that be sowing enmity with me? Lung Shichi said as a matter of fact. "Yushu, so you're even more shameless than me." Of course, Yushu didn't say this sentence out loud. Mo Gate. Mo-e was pacing back and forth. The expression on his face was cloudy and uncertain. His pure spirit realm subordinate, Mo-2, persuaded, "Clan Master, the situation is true. Hua Lingling and Qi Shui have betrayed the Yushu clan and intend to set up their own clan. They even brought away half of their men. Taking advantage of the fact that Yushu's injuries have yet to recover, this is the best chance to annihilate the Yushu clan." Mo-e was still hesitant. "Hua Lingling and Qi Shui have betrayed us just because of a deputy clan master position? Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Let me think about it again. Clan master, opportunity knocks but once. Have you forgotten how the Yushu clan had been suppressing us all this while? Have you forgotten how many of our men had died in the hands of the Yushu clan? Have you forgotten how arrogant and despotic Yushu used to point fingers in front of us?" Mo-2 shouted angrily. Mo-e waved his hand impatiently. "I know what you're saying, but what if this is a trap?" Mo-2's heart was filled with resentment as he continued. "So what if it's a trap? Does Clan Master think that after Yushu's injuries have fully recovered, he will coexist peacefully with us? When we surrounded and killed the Lung Shichi, Yushu had already hated us to the core. Rather than waiting for Yushu to regroup before finding trouble with us, why not strike first and gain the upper hand? He stretched out his hand and pressed on Mo2's shoulder as he said in a deep voice, although that's the case, but don't forget that there's still the Lung Shichi. He's the sword hanging above Yushu's head at all times. Moreover, there's still the mess of Hua Lingling and Qi Shui, so he won't have the mood to deal with us. We just need to do what we did last time, sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. At this moment, Mo2 suddenly knelt down as his eyes shone brilliantly. Clan Master, forgive me for being blunt. Of course we can sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. But if this goes on, when will the Mo clan become stronger? Why don't we grab hold of the opportunity and annihilate the Yushu clan, plunder their resources, and destroy Hua Lingling and Qi Shui? The Mo clan can then unify the withered forest. 1. Unify. Withered. Forest. These 4 words kept on churning in Mo Yi's mind. Before this, he had never had such thoughts. But at this moment, he suddenly realized that he wasn't too far away from this step. Phew, Mo Yi heaved a heavy sigh as though he had made a decision. Immediately gather all the men and set off immediately to annihilate the Yushu clan. Clan Master is wise. Mo2 shouted excitedly. On the other side, in the Yushu clan. Clan Master. A person suddenly ran into Yushu's tent and was about to speak when he glanced at Lung Shichi and gave Yushu a signal with his eyes. This is Vice Clan Master. If you have something to say, just say it. Yushu said seriously. Clan Master. Something's happened. The Mo clan's men are here, and they've turned out in full force. Yushu turned his head and glanced at Lung Shichi as he thought, he's right. Following that, Yushu waved his hand and said, since you know that the Mo clan's men are here, why are you still in a daze? Quickly go and gather men to face the enemy. But that person's face revealed a difficult expression as he stammered. But there are only 30 over men left in the clan, and there are only 5 of them who are at the 9th level of the spirit-gathering realm. Before he could finish his words, Yushu interrupted him. Gather as many men as you can. What's there to be afraid of? I have my own ways. Go. Yes. After that person left, Yushu came to Lung Shichi's side and smiled. Dark Crow brother is indeed brilliant. All right, act according to the plan. Today is the day you unify the withered forest. Lung Shichi said indifferently with his hands behind his back. Even though Yushu knew that he was being controlled by others, but the thought of being able to dominate the withered forest still made him excited. Following that, the 2 of them walked out of the tent one after another. At this moment, outside the Yushu clan's campsite, Mo led 60 over men from the Mo clan and stood at the entrance of the campsite, emitting an austere aura. In contrast, there were only 30 over men from the Yushu clan, and all of them had an uneasy look on their faces. Just based on numbers and morale, the Yushu clan had been completely defeated. At this moment, Yushu walked arrogantly to the front of the crowd and put on an unfathomable look as he shouted, Moe, are you here to send your men to their deaths? Chapter 62. Standing at the head of the crowd, Moe saw that Yushu was still so arrogant, and his face sunk as he snapped. Yushu, you're still so stubborn even at death's door. Ha ha! There are many people who want to kill me. Perhaps one day I will be killed by someone, but that person will definitely not be you. And who gave you the confidence to take me down? Yushu continued to speak arrogantly. Mo turned his gaze towards a mysterious man who was shrouded in a black cloak. It was rumored that it was because of this person that caused Hua Lingling and Qi Shui to run away. That meant that this mysterious man was at least stronger than the both of them. Mo tried to sense the other party's cultivation, but the other party seemed to be intentionally controlling his spiritual energy, and he was unable to sense it accurately. This person was the real enemy. Mo didn't want to waste any more words with Yushu as he shouted, "Kill!" Saying that, Moe and Mo2 led the charge and 60 over people followed closely behind. Mo Yi's most wanted target was still Yushu. After all, he and Yushu were already mortal enemies. However, halfway through, the mysterious man stopped him. With a somewhat hoarse voice, he said, "Sect Master Mo, your opponent is me." This mysterious man was naturally Lung Shichi. After Lung Shichi blocked Mo Yi, he stretched out both his hands and instantly turned into pitch-black ghost claws as he waved it fiercely. Mo Yi's spirit sword was unsheathed and directly slashed against the ghost claws, giving off a crisp ding sound. Lung Shichi didn't care about his opponent's sword and stretched out his arm. The ghost claws wrapped around Mo Yi's arm and left 5 thin blood scars on his arm. Mo Yi was shocked as he withdrew his sword and retreated. However, Lung Shichi didn't give him any chance to take a breather as he continued to press forward. He combined the Vine Entanglement Hand and close combat skills, pressuring Mo Yi so much that he could only defend. Originally, these two spiritual skills' attacking power wasn't very strong, but combined with the Ghost Jade Claw, it was totally different. Just a touch would cause one to be injured. Fortunately, Mo Yi's swordsmanship was steady and he leaned towards defense. After familiarizing himself with Lung Shichi's attacking rhythm, he slowly stabilized himself. On the other side, Yushu was exchanging blows with Mo. Tuesday. Yushu's cultivation was far superior to Mo2's, but 2 days ago, he had been severely injured by Lung Shichi, and it was the most difficult internal injury to recover from. At this moment, he was barely able to fight Mo2 to a draw. However, Mo Yi and Mo2 weren't in a hurry. Although they didn't have the upper hand in the battle, their subordinates had the upper hand. The Jet Black clan had twice the number of people, and there were more than 10 people who were at the 9th level of the Spirit Gathering Realm, while the Yushu clan only had 5 people. In the battle between spirit cultivators of the Spirit Assembly Realm, the Yushu clan was forced to retreat. Seeing this, Yushu's expression finally changed. After forcing Mo2 back with a single move, he shouted, "Retreat! Retreat quickly!" Everyone could only hurriedly retreat, relying on some of the obstacles in the camp to support themselves. Lung Shichi also found a chance to leave the battle and gathered with everyone. "Haha, Yushu, you've always boasted that you're smart, but you've actually made such a mistake. The more you retreat, the more you've forced yourself to the point where you have nowhere to escape." Mo Yi saw the Yushu clan shrinking into a corner with an uneasy look on their faces, and he laughed heartily. Mo2 also laughed and teased. "That's right, forcing yourself to this point, letting us catch the turtle in the jar. Then you're the turtle." Ha ha ha. Everyone from the Jet Black clan laughed loudly. Ha ha. What no one had expected was that Yushu also laughed along. When Mo Yi saw Yushu laughing, he felt uncomfortable and said in a deep voice, "What are you laughing at?" "Catching the turtle in the jar." "All right, today I'd like to see who's the turtle in the jar." Yushu's words had just ended when a sound of footsteps was heard from afar. Mo Yi instantly sensed that something was amiss and hurriedly turned back, only to see Hua Lingling and Qi Shui leading close to 30 people running over. Just nice. They blocked the camp's entrance tightly. Pincer attacked from the front and back, attacked from the back and abdomen. In a blink of an eye, the Jet Black clan people had become the turtle in the jar. Mo Yi and Mo2 were shocked, and their faces turned pale. They knew that they had been tricked. Perhaps they had guessed that this was a trap, but they still stepped into it. They were betting that Hua Lingling and Qi Shui had really betrayed Yushu. If they won the bet, they would unify the withered forest. If they lost the bet, they would have a slim chance of survival. Mo Yi took a deep breath and shouted, "We haven't lost yet. Even if we add these people, our numbers are about the same. If we fight to the death, the outcome is still unknown." Yushu and Mo Yi had a tacit understanding at this moment as they ordered, "Kill." With the addition of Hua Lingling, Qi Shui, and the rest, Yushu clan side immediately gained the upper hand. Yushu continued to look for Mo2, and while he was fighting, he was also scolding. Mo2's face had long turned ashen. At this moment, Lung Shichi stretched out a finger and the spiritual light on his fingertip flickered as he pointed towards Mo-E. Mo-E placed his sword horizontally in front of him, intending to block this finger. However, when Lung Shichi's finger touched the sword, it instantly gave off a ka-ka sound. Not only that, Mo-E also felt a strong force coming over, forcing him to take 2 steps back. He lowered his head to take a look. Several very obvious cracks had actually appeared on his Tier 2 spirit sword. Pure Spirit Realm, 5th level. You're hiding your ability? Who on earth are you? Moe's expression changed again, and finally turned gloomy as he asked in a stern voice. Dark Crow. Lung Shichi spat out these 2 words, and following that, he struck out with his palm. This time, Moe didn't dare to casually receive it and hurriedly evaded. Lung Shichi twisted his body and sent out a kick. Following that, fist, palm, leg, exponential spiritual skills were displayed, beating Moe till he didn't have any temper. After a while, his entire body was covered with injuries. It's about time, Lung Shichi muttered to himself. Moe, who was nearest to him, heard this sentence, and his heart quivered as an ominous premonition surged into his heart. Lung Shichi sent out another kick, but this time, he didn't use any spiritual skills, just an ordinary kick. Moe barely managed to evade it, but the sense of crisis in his heart grew stronger. He saw that Lung Shichi didn't manage to land his kick and directly did a side somersault. When he was in midair, his right hand pulled out a sharp dagger from his ankle. Lung Shichi's dagger slashed towards Moe's throat. At this critical moment, Moe didn't have time to do any other defense and could only use his left arm to protect his face. Ding! The dagger slashed against Moe's left arm and actually gave off a metallic clanging sound. But Lung Shichi's expression didn't change because Moe's body also leaned backwards. Lung Shichi's body moved and suddenly disappeared in front of Moe's eyes. Moe was horrified when he saw this, but before he could think further, a chill swiftly swept across his entire body from his neck. The last thing he saw was the strange blood-red dome in the sky and a man wearing a mask. The dagger in his hand was dripping with his blood. In the end, he still lost to his own ambition. The moment Mo Gates' sect master died, the morale of the others immediately plummeted. Lung Shichi joined forces with Yushu to kill Mo too, and after that, he didn't make any more moves. Mo Gates' 2 pure spirit realm practitioners were already dead, and the only thing left was a massacre. Chapter 63. Yushu clan's battle ended not long after. Mo clan had been defeated. Defeat meant that they had been annihilated. More than half of Mo clan's men had died in the battle. In the end, they only managed to recruit 20 men, and a few of them managed to escape. After this battle, Withered Forest was only left with Yushu clan. In other words, Yushu clan had dominated Withered Forest. Yushu looked at his subordinates who were busy cleaning up the battlefield and felt that everything was unreal. He had once thought of dominating Withered Forest, but he knew that it was very difficult. Mo, and Bailey Ching were not easy to deal with. However, he managed to do it one day, and this made him a little dazed. Recalling what had happened these few days, it seemed that the cause of everything was Bailey Ching's intention to get rid of Lung Shichi. In the end, Belichuan was the first to be eliminated, and it was destroyed by Mo clan. The so-called alliance was a joke right from the start. In just 3 to 4 days, Belichuan and Mo clan had been destroyed, and he, Yushu, was secretly controlled by Lung Shichi. Thinking of this, Yushu suddenly quivered. If Lung Shichi was a person who coveted power, then would his Yushu clan also be destroyed? A terrifying thought surfaced in his mind. If everything was under Lung Shichi's control, then how terrifying was this person? Now that he thought about it, the 3 families had joined forces to kill Lung Shichi, but in the end, they were all defeated by Lung Shichi. He had single-handedly overthrown the 3 powers. Facing such a person, Yushu felt a sense of helplessness. Following that, he saw Lung Shichi walking into the tent and giving him a look. Yushu took a deep breath and collected his thoughts. Then, he led Hua Lingling and Qi Shui into the tent. The three of them knew Lung Shiqi's identity. Otherwise, Hua Lingling and Qi Shui wouldn't have been so obedient. They were scared of Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi asked straightforwardly when he saw them come in, "How is Mo Gates camp?" Yushu sighed. That fellow Mo, he seems to have made preparations for failure and had long hidden the cultivation resources somewhere. Right now, other than some food and water, there is nothing left in Mo Gates camp. Lung Shiqi frowned and said, "Try to find as many as you can. In the next few days, reorganize and pick 1 or 2 rank 1 cultivation methods that are more applicable and pass them down to replenish the elite forces as soon as possible." But Lung Shiqi waved his hand and interrupted Yushu. "I know what you were worried about. But right now, the Spirit Gathering Realm's battle power is too weak. Moreover, the pure Spirit Realm cultivators are too few. You must know that Blood Fog Island doesn't only have withered forest. The more pure Spirit Realm cultivators there are, the better." Yushu's heart jumped when he heard that. From Lung Shiqi's words, he wasn't satisfied with withered forest. He hurriedly replied, "Understood, understood." Lung Shiqi nodded his head, and under the horrified gazes of the three, he sank into the ground and disappeared. After a long while, the three of them regained their senses. Hua Lingling's pretty face instantly turned green and white. Her voice trembled slightly as she said, "This, if he wants to kill me, how should I guard against him?" Qi Shui's expression changed as if he thought of something and exclaimed, "Since he has such a method, he could have escaped when we surrounded him." "That's right, but he didn't. If he chose to escape, our Yushu clan wouldn't be where we are today," Yushu said with a complicated tone. Qi Shui asked, "Clan Master, there's something I don't understand. Why did Ling Shiqi choose us? We fought to the death with him, and Mo clan never had any grudges with him. He could have chosen to help Mo clan destroy us. He could have secretly controlled Withered Forest." Yushu smiled proudly and said, "You don't understand. It's because we have a grudge with Lung Shiqi that he chose us." "Why?" Hua Lingling was very puzzled. "Let me ask you, when you found out that Dark Crow was Lung Shiqi, how did you feel?" I was so scared that I thought I was going to die," Hua Lingling recalled, and her face was filled with fear. "But Lung Shiqi didn't kill you. If he didn't kill you, you have escaped death. This was more effective than any coercion. Moreover, Mo, he had always been a two-faced person. Since he could betray me and Bailey Qing, naturally he could also betray Lung Shiqi. Of course, these aren't the most important. The most important thing is that I am very smart." Hua Lingling and Qi Shui nodded their heads in understanding, but automatically filtered out the last sentence. At this moment, Lung Shiqi had returned to the cave. With a wave of his hand, Ziyu flew over. Lung Shiqi checked carefully and found a knife mark on Ziyu's abdomen. Although the knife mark wasn't long, it was very deep. Previously, he had ordered Ziyu to stop the Yushu clan, and after it was injured, it returned to the cave. So these 2 days, he didn't bring Ziyu along, but let it recuperate here. After that, Lung Shiqi rested for a period of time. For the past few days, he had been constantly scheming on how to maximize his gains. Moreover, the continuous battles had exhausted him physically and mentally. After resting for half a day, Lung Shiqi stretched his body and opened the system. Name: Lung Shiqi, Lu Xingji Cultivation, Pure Spirit Realm Level 5 Cultivation Method. 3rd Level Cultivation Method Demonic Beast Breaking Skill Bloodline. Spiritual Skills. 1st Level Spiritual Skill Rushing Thunder Sword Perfection. 1st Level Spiritual Skill Revolving Spear Skill Perfection. 1st Level Spiritual Skill Extreme Shadow Knife Skill Perfection. 1st Level Spiritual Skill Boundless Axe Perfection. 1st Level Spiritual Skill Close Combat Skill Perfection. 2nd Level Spiritual Skill Wave Breaking Fist Perfection. 2nd Level Spiritual Skill Ghost Archery Perfection Level 2. Spiritual Skill Gale / Consummation Special. Spiritual Technique Hand of the Earth Great Perfection Special Spiritual Technique, Chakra Walk Technique, Great Perfection System Coins. 112. Looking at this list of spiritual techniques, Lung Shiqi rubbed his chin in satisfaction. He didn't mention the ones that weren't ranked. There were as many as 16 first-stage spiritual skills. There were also 3 second-stage spiritual skills that were regarded as treasures. Furthermore, all of them were at the Great Circle realm. Most of the spiritual skills came from the collections of several forces, including the 100 or so system coins, which were obtained from raiding the Beilituan. However, Lung Shiqi did not look very happy. Instead, he gradually frowned. He had the system, so he could cultivate his spiritual skills to the Great Perfection realm in an extremely short period of time. The saying of being greedy and not proficient did not apply to him. But there was still a problem, and that was chaos. He was proficient in everything from swords, spears, swords, axes, fists, palms, and legs. The advantage of having a variety of weapons was that they could deal with all kinds of enemies. The disadvantage was that none of them were particularly outstanding. For example, swordsmanship. If he didn't use Blossoming Lust, it would be difficult to defeat opponents of the same level with just Willow swordsmanship and Rushing Thundersword. It was the same in other aspects. What he needed to do next was to combine, or even fuse his spiritual techniques, just like how he had fused the mesmerizing flower eyes and the 3 waves tiger-breaking fist. Next, he had 2 ideas. One was to combine his fists, palms, legs, and fingers into a set of spiritual skill combinations that were specialized for close combat. The other was to use the Gale Slash that Yushu had given him as the core and combine it into a sword technique. Chapter 64. Over the next few days, Lung Shiqi entered a boring state of cultivation. Every day, he alternated between cultivating his spiritual power and spiritual techniques. He did not become complacent because he secretly controlled the withered forest. He knew that his true opponents were not those people. In terms of cultivation, because the spirit chi that Lung Shiqi obtained from refining demonic blood was not pure, he didn't deliberately increase his cultivation during this period of time. Instead, he slowly polished his spirit force. In terms of spiritual techniques, the combination of close combat and killing techniques was beginning to take shape. He could switch between spiritual techniques more smoothly. In addition, Lung Shiqi's understanding of sword techniques was deeper than his understanding of close combat. He used the rank 2 spiritual technique, Gale Slash, which was a stunning slash that Yushu used previously, as the core. He tried to merge the unranked 1-stage sword technique and the rank 1 gold splitting slash. Coincidentally, these 3 spiritual techniques only had 1 move, and the essence of each move was 1 word: slash. No matter how fancy you are, I only care about slashing with my sword. At this point, the fusion of these 3 spiritual skills had gradually reached a state of perfection. With a clear cultivation direction, Lung Shiqi wholeheartedly immersed himself in cultivation. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, more than 20 days had passed. During this period, there were 2 eruptions of cultivation resources, but Lung Shiqi did not fight for them. As long as the cultivation resources fell into the withered forest, they were all his. He only took the time to go to the Yushu clan twice to take some pills and spiritual stones for his own use. Then, he casually flipped through the 2 spiritual techniques and returned. On this day, Lung Shiqi, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, he could feel that the surrounding spiritual power had suddenly become very violent. He could not cultivate it all. What happened? Lung Shiqi frowned and got up. Not long after, a purple crow flew over. Lung Shiqi waved his hand, and Ziyu obediently flew onto his arm. Upon closer inspection, Ziyu's leg was tied with a thin strip of cloth. Lung Shiqi took it down and opened it. There was a sentence written inside. "Golden light has appeared. There might be a treasure." Lung Shiqi's palm moved, and the strip of cloth instantly turned into scraps of cloth. Lung Shiqi immediately brought Ziyu to the Jade Tree Gang. During this period of time, the Yushu clan had been developing very smoothly. Currently, the Yushu clan was the only force in Withered Forest. Many of the originally scattered Lone Rangers had chosen to join them. Other than that, there were also people from other regions who took the initiative to join the Yushu clan. The current Yushu clan had more than 100 members. Previously, Lung Shiqi had also asked Yushu to pass down the cultivation technique. With the cultivation technique, the strength of the Yushu clan was rapidly improving every day, ushering in a blowout-like explosion. In less than a month, there were more than 40 spirit cultivators at the 9th level of the spirit gathering realm. When Lung Shiqi came to the Yushu clan's tent with a wide cloak and a dark mask, there were already 7 people inside. In addition to Yushu, Hua Lingling, and Qi Shui, 4 more people had broken through to the pure spirit realm in this month. Seeing Lung Shiqi come in, Yushu greeted him, and the others respectfully shouted, "Deputy Clan Master." Lung Shiqi directly asked, "Clan Master, what's going on?" The 3 people who had just broken through to the pure spirit realm did not know Lung Shiqi's identity, so he still called Yushu Clan Master in front of others. Not long ago, a golden light suddenly burst out from the foot of the small mountain, and the heaven and earth spirit chi of the entire blood mist island became restless. I guess that some kind of heaven and earth treasure has appeared. No matter what it is, we must hurry over. Yushu replied, "Where is it? It's not far from here, and there are 2 or 3 regions between us. The nearby forces have probably already arrived." Yushu's voice carried a hint of anxiety. Lung Shiqi thought for a moment and said, "Clan Master, don't worry. We are relatively close. It won't be too late to set off after settling everything. Hua Lingling, go and settle our cultivation resources. Qi Shui, go and gather everyone and choose suitable people to stay behind." Yushu immediately ordered. Hua Lingling and Qi Shui received the order and left. The commotion this time is so big that I'm afraid the entire Blood Mist Island has been alarmed. When the time comes, there will be a lot of fighting, and I don't know how many people will die. Yushu suddenly became compassionate. Lung Shiqi glanced at him in surprise. Yushu continued, "Anyone can die, but the people of our Yushu clan can't die, especially you and the Vice Clan Master." The other 4 people were immediately moved. Lung Shiqi's eyes couldn't help but twitch. He seemed to vaguely hear Yushu's thoughts. "If you die, who will give me the antidote?" Not long after, Hua Lingling and Qi Shui returned. Everything had been arranged. Yushu nodded and said, "Good. Get ready to set off. But we can't go from the mountain. We have to go from the inside. You must give the order that we will pass through the misty area and the stone forest. Tell everyone to behave and don't get into conflict with the other factions." "Understood. I will give the order." Qi Shui nodded. "Let's go." Immediately after, the Yushu clan left some people behind, and the group of 80 or so people set off. In order to ensure that the camp wouldn't be destroyed after they left, Lung Shiqi deliberately left Ziyu behind to guard against unforeseen circumstances. At this time, at the border between the misty area and the stone forest, 2 groups of people were facing each other. The number of people on both sides was about the same, about 50 or so people. They were the 2 factions of the misty area, the Battle Sect and the Twin Heroes Hall. The Battle Sect's clan master, Zhanjiga, was a strong young man with his arms exposed. His arms bulged with bulging muscles, and it looked like he was quite strong. At this moment, he crossed his arms and shouted, "Wu Qing, Wu Exen, what are you trying to do? You don't want to fight, and you don't want to retreat. Do you want to annoy me?" Wu Qing and Wu Exen's faces were 80% similar, and they looked like a pair of brothers. The slightly taller one was Wu Qing, and he was also the hall master of the Twin Heroes Hall. He said unhappily, "Zhanjiga, I already said that the stone forest has been occupied by Blood Moon for almost 2 months. No one knows how much they've developed. If we want to pass through the stone forest smoothly, we must work together to ensure our safety." Zhanjiga immediately said angrily, Work together? Have you lost your mind? You killed a few of my brothers a few days ago, and now you want to work together? In your dreams. At this time, Wu Xian walked over. Zhang Jiga, why are you still acting dumb? You know very well what we're talking about. If we continue to delay here, the treasures will have already been taken by others by the time we arrive. TCH, you're just afraid of Blood Moon, aren't you? What can a little girl do? Besides, Blood Moon's people are probably already there by now, so why would they stop us? It was really baffling. Let's go our separate ways. What do you know? She's a crazy woman. She's capable of doing anything. Wu Qing suddenly shouted with a ferocious expression, as if Delta Orgy had left a terrible impression on him. Just as the two sides were arguing, a series of hurried footsteps gradually came from afar. Chapter 65. While the battle sect and the dual heroes hall were still arguing, a group of foreign forces arrived. The leader was a handsome and elegant young man, and there were more than 80 people following behind him. Zhang Jiga sensed the cultivation of the leader and found that he was at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. He was 1 level higher than him. When he looked back, he saw 7 pure spirit realm experts standing behind him. Zhang Jiga's expression changed slightly, and he couldn't help but frown. Wu Qing and Wu Xian looked at each other and saw a bit of surprise in each other's eyes. They silently retreated to their own side. This force was naturally the Yushu clan that had hurried over. Yushu saw many people gathered there from a distance and stopped. He raised his hand, and the people behind him also stopped. Seeing that they were all hostile, Yushu also became vigilant. Lung Shichi walked to Yushu and said, I stayed in the fog area for a few days before. They're the battle sect and the dual heroes hall of the fog area. However, I don't know their specific cultivation and strength. Yushu said, I know the battle sect quite well. Bailey Qing has been in contact with the battle sect several times before. I was afraid that he would stir up trouble, so I secretly inquired about the battle sect. Yushu stopped and looked at Lung Shichi. He hesitated for a moment before saying, Back then, the news of your strength increasing greatly was obtained by Bailey Qing from the battle gate. Get to the point, Lung Shichi said indifferently. Cough. The battle sect master is called Zhang Jiga, 4th level of the pure spirit realm. The cultivation method he cultivates is a bit strange. He is very strong, and his physical defense is also very high. He doesn't use any weapons and only relies on his fists. As for the dual heroes hall, I haven't been in contact with them, so I don't know much about them. Lung Shichi couldn't help but glance at Zhang Jiga and then said, They shouldn't be stopping us. Let's go and see if we can pass. Try not to get into a conflict. Yushu nodded when he heard that. He walked forward and greeted them politely. So, it's a friend from the battle sect and twin heroes hall. I am Yushu from the Yushu clan. Yushu clan, Yushu, Wuqing, Wuxin, and Zhang Jiga were all shocked. The withered forest and a misty area could be considered neighbors, so they more or less knew what was going on there. They all knew that the Yushu clan had dominated the withered forest more than a month ago. However, they did not expect the Yushu clan to be so powerful. In the crowd of people from the battle sect, a dark-faced youth's expression changed. He took a few steps back and hid in the crowd. Yushu continued, I believe that all of you have gathered here to seize the treasure. Why don't we go together? Hearing this, Wuqing and Wuxin both nodded inwardly. They had blocked the battle sect because they wanted to find someone to team up with to pass through the stone forest. Now that there was a stronger Yushu clan, they were naturally more than happy to help. Zhang Jiga was not stupid. He just did not want to team up with Twin Heroes Hall. Sure. Seeing the other party agree so easily, Yushu was a little stunned. However, he immediately reacted and put on a cordial smile on his face and said a few polite words. Then, the three forces set off together. The Yushu clan was in the middle, while the battle sect and Twin Heroes Hall were on the sides. However, all of them had vigilant expressions. Clearly, none of them trusted the other forces. After the three forces entered the stone forest, they did not stop at all. They headed straight for the place where the golden light flickered. Wuching and Wuxin were the only ones who looked around nervously. However, nothing happened. Blood Moon's people did not stop them. It was a false alarm. Zhang Jiga used this point to mock them from time to time. After passing through the stone forest, the group arrived at the area where the golden light was, the wetlands. The wetlands were full of potholes. Every step they took would cause them to sink slightly into the mud. After entering the wetlands, the Yushu clan naturally separated from the battle sect and Twin Heroes Hall. Looking from afar, they could clearly see a large patch of golden light enveloping one side of the small mountain. When they got close to the golden light, they saw a large group of people in the distance. These people were clearly divided. After counting carefully, there were 9 forces here. Each force had around 50 to 80 people. So many people have already come? Yushu mumbled. It's not too late. Since they're still waiting here, it means that the treasure hasn't really appeared yet. Lung Shiqi observed that these people were all gathered at the foot of the mountain. Many of them were sitting on the ground. Clearly, it was not time for the treasure to appear yet. What do we do now? Should I send someone to scout for information? There's no rush. Oh, then what should we do? Grab a spot. Lung Shiqi's voice was a bit cold. Lung Shiqi had just carefully looked at the distribution and position of each force. He found that the more people there were, the stronger the force was, the further forward they would be. When the treasures appeared, they would naturally occupy a certain amount of opportunities. Yushu quickly saw this and complimented. Brother Dark Crow is mighty. It's not me, it's you. When the people who had already arrived saw that 3 more forces had arrived, none of them had a good expression. In particular, the leaders of the forces at the front were secretly staring at the 3 new forces. When the battle sect and Twin Heroes Hall consciously found a corner to settle down, their eyes relaxed slightly. However, at this time, a handsome young man led a group of people forward. When the forces at the back saw that this force had a large number of people and had many pure spirit realm experts, they naturally did not dare to stop them. However, they all had expressions of watching a good show, because the forces at the front could not stand it anymore. When Yushu led his group halfway, a man and a woman stood out and stopped him. Silver Ring Village, Bone Ring. Green Lotus Gang, Green Lotus. Yushu understood. On the way here, he had exchanged information with Zhang Jiga and the others. He learned that the 2 forces that originally existed in the wetlands were the Silver Ring Village and the Green Lotus Gang. The Golden Light landed near the wetlands, and they could be said to have a geographical advantage. They quickly reached a consensus to abandon their old grudges and join forces to occupy the best position. As the saying went, a strong dragon could not suppress a snake in its old haunts. However, in front of a rare treasure, these 2 local snakes were still suppressed by a strong dragon. And there were 3 of them. At this moment, the 3 forces closest to the front were the Thousand Mountain Alliance, Seiji, and Blood Moon. They were all major forces that dominated a region. They had also forcibly broken through the blockade of the Silver Ring Village and the Green Lotus Gang to occupy the best position. As landlords, they had long lost face, but now there was a 4th dragon. Yushu clan, Yushu. Yushu had his hands behind his back, looking as if he did not put the other party in his eyes. The faces of Bone Ring and Green Lotus became even darker. Bone Ring said in a deep voice, Yushu clan, you want to go over? Then let's see if you have the ability. After saying that, Bone Ring and Green Lotus waved their hands at the same time, and 6 people walked out of the crowd one after another. All of them were at the pure spirit realm. Yushu chuckled and waved his hand like them. The 7 people behind him stepped forward at the same time and released their spirit chi. Including him, there were 8 pure spirit realm spirit cultivators. Among them, there were even 2 at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. Everyone was shocked. Chapter 66. The 8 pure spirit realm experts of the Yushu clan all released their spirit chi, especially Yushu and Lung Shiqi, who were at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. Gu Huan, and Qing Lian's faces were as black as the bottom of a pot. Everyone had the same number of pure spirit realm experts, but they were only at the 4th level of the pure spirit realm. How could they fight against someone at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm? If it was a life and death battle, they might not be afraid, but if it was only a battle of victory, their chances of winning were very small. I wonder if we have the qualifications to go, Yushu said with a smile. Gu Huan and Qing Lian looked at each other and could only helplessly retreat in the end. Yushu laughed and continued to lead the group forward. As he walked, he cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for letting me win. Thank you for letting me win." The words arrogant and despotic were written all over his face. "Hey, everyone. Nice to meet you." Yushu led the group to the front and greeted the people of the other 3 forces warmly. The leader of the Thousand Mountains Alliance, Hen Qianshan, nodded with a fake smile. The commissioner of the Seiji, Hungming, had an indifferent expression. As for the Moon Lord of the Blood Moon, Delta Orgi, she closed her eyes and rested from beginning to end. She had no intention of paying attention to him. Yushu awkwardly rubbed his nose and led the group to an open space to settle down. After a while, Yushu came to Long Shichi's side and said in a low voice, "Brother Dark Crow, aren't we being too high profile by doing this? Sometimes, being high profile will bring us some trouble, but it will also help us avoid more trouble. For example, it will be very convenient for you to send people to gather information now." Lung Shichi replied. Yushu shrugged and said, "All right." On the other side, in the Blood Moon's group, Chin saw everything that just happened. When he saw the masked black figure, his whole body trembled. Then, he respectfully walked to Delta Orgi and whispered, "I'm sorry. Moon Mistress, look at that person. Isn't that the one who helped us destroy the Supreme Union last time?" Delta Orgi suddenly opened her eyes and locked her gaze on Long Shichi. Long Shichi felt Delta Orgi's gaze and silently looked at her before turning his head away. Delta Orgi's eyes flashed with a few rays of light, and she said indifferently, "No." Yushu also noticed Delta Orgi's gaze. His eyes darted back and forth between the two of them, revealing a meaningful expression. No one knew what he was thinking. At this moment, another wave of discussion came from not far away. Lung Shichi raised his head and looked over, only to see 3 more forces arriving one after another. Fortunately, these 3 forces were not very strong. They only had about 60 people. But what followed closely behind was another dragon crossing the river. A team of more than 100 people gradually walked over. The person in the lead was wearing a blood-red, tight-fitting martial suit and carrying a pitch-black spear on his back. He did not hide his cultivation aura at all. 6th level of the pure spirit realm. Everyone's expression changed, especially the leaders of the forces at the front. They were all at the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. When they saw that there were 2 5th level of the pure spirit realm in the Yushu clan, they still felt a huge pressure. But at this moment, a 6th level of the pure spirit realm had appeared. Now, more than 90% of the spirit cultivators on the entire Blood Fog Island had gathered here. In terms of cultivation alone, this person deserved to be the number 1 person on the Blood Fog Island. It's the Blood Sea Cult. The Blood Sea Cult actually sent so many people. Did they come out in full force? Xue Wuhai is actually already at the 6th level of the pure spirit realm. Is there anyone with a higher cultivation than him on the Blood Fog Island? The appearance of the Blood Sea Cult and Xue Wuhai immediately caused an uproar among the crowd as they discussed in low voices. Lung Shichi could not help but take a few more glances at Xue Wuhai. To be able to cultivate to the 6th level of the pure spirit realm at this stage, he either had a rank 3 cultivation technique or had some fortuitous encounter. One had to know that Lung Shichi had the rank 3 cultivation technique, Beast Origin Demonic Destruction Technique, and refined the demon blood of several rank 1 demonic beasts. Now, he was still stuck at the peak of the 5th level of the pure spirit realm. Of course, there was also the reason why Lung Shichi did not deliberately increase his cultivation, but instead solidified his foundation. Otherwise, Long Shiqi would have already broken through to the 6th level of the pure spirit realm. Hearing the exclamations of the crowd, Shui Wuhai's face could not help but reveal a smug expression as he led his people forward casually. Gu Huan and Qing Lian's faces were already dark to the point of turning purple. This time, they did not stand out to stop him because they knew that they could not stop him. There was no need to go up and embarrass themselves. Shui Wuhai led more than 100 people to the front. The place, which was not very big to begin with, suddenly became crowded. Shui Wuhai's gaze swept across the other leaders one by one, revealing a provocative expression. However, no one paid any attention to him. They only laughed contemptuously, minding their own business as they settled their subordinates. At this time, Long Shiqi had been observing the large golden light. Now that he was close enough, he could clearly see that the golden light covered an area of about a few hundred feet. Because the golden light was too bright, he could not see what was inside. At this time, the people that Yushu had sent out to inquire about the news had also returned. There were mainly two aspects of the news. On the one hand, it was about the various forces present. At this moment, there were already a total of 16 forces gathered here. The relationship between these forces, their strength, the cultivation of the leaders, and the spirit skills that they were good at, etc. On the other hand, it was about the golden light. It was said that this golden light appeared very suddenly, and there were no signs at all. After the golden light appeared, a few spirit cultivators who did not care about their lives tried to break in. However, as soon as they got close, they were surrounded by a ball of golden light and exploded. From then on, no one dared to barge in. More importantly, this ball of golden light would slowly fade with time. Long Shiqi and the others had just arrived, so they naturally could not see any changes. However, those who had been waiting for an entire day had discovered this phenomenon. This is deliberately waiting for everyone to gather here. Long Shiqi thought to himself after hearing the news. Thinking that all of this was deliberately arranged by someone, he understood that this was a trap for everyone to kill each other. In the past 3 months since the heavenly collapse, the spirit cultivators on Blood Mist Island had become smarter and smarter. They had formed their own forces to fight against the demon beasts and compete for resources. Every time they competed for resources, they rarely fought to the death. Instead, they used the form of gambling to resolve conflicts. This way, for the spirit cultivators, they could reduce the number of deaths and obtain cultivation resources at the same time. Especially for the Yushu clan, Blood Moon, and a few other forces that had already dominated an area, every time there was an eruption of resources, there would no longer be a conflict, because all the resources belonged to them. Under such circumstances, the number of battles on Blood Mist Island was slowly decreasing. But this situation was not a good thing for the people who were controlling all of this. They did not want to see everyone get along well, but they wanted to see everyone kill each other. Long Shiqi felt that this matter was definitely dangerous beyond imagination. Chapter 67. When Long Shiqi thought of this, he warned himself to be extremely vigilant. Then he found a rock and sat down cross-legged. He closed his eyes and rested. He had to ensure that he was at his peak state at all times. Time slowly passed, and the golden light at the foot of the mountain gradually weakened. On the second day, the golden light had clearly dimmed a lot. At this speed, it would completely dissipate in about half a day. During this time, 3 more forces arrived. They were neither strong nor weak, so they didn't cause much of a commotion. As of now, there were as many as 19 forces gathered here. At a rough glance, there were about 200 to 300 people gathered here. More than 90% of the people on Blood Fog Island were here. This could be considered a grand meeting. This was because everyone usually stayed in a certain area. Even the strongest few forces would not easily cross over to another area. It could be said that kings didn't meet kings. At this moment, regardless of the size of the forces, everyone was gathered here. Moreover, as far as the eye could see, all of them were elites among elites. Back then, more than 10,000 children were captured and brought to Blood Fog Island. Now, after 1 year and 3 months, only these children were left. Less than 10% were left. How many would be left after this battle? Of course, no one would sigh at this time, because after the golden light dimmed, the situation inside could be roughly seen. In particular, the Yushu clan's strongest forces could see more clearly. Lung Shichi's eyes focused. Through the thin layer of golden light, he could barely see that there seemed to be many monsters inside. However, the strange thing was that the monsters were all motionless, as if they didn't have any life. Looking further in, there were monsters of all shapes and sizes. In the innermost area, there were 3 tall figures. In the middle of the 3 figures, there was a golden ball of light the size of a head. The golden light that everyone saw was emitted from that ball of light. At this moment, everyone stared at the golden ball of light with blazing eyes. They all raised their weapons, and the spiritual power in their bodies began to flow slowly. The people of each force slowly moved forward, and the atmosphere in the area suddenly became tense. At this time, Lung Shichi said to Yushu, "How is that matter going?" "Yes, I have already secretly allied with 3 small and medium-sized forces, including the Twin Heroes Hall," Yushu said seriously. "Sure, but you can't trust these people so easily." "Of course. All we need to do is wait. Tell everyone to prepare for battle at any time," Lung Shichi ordered. Understood. It wasn't just the Yushu clan. All the other forces were doing the same thing. In the end, everyone could only wait. 2 hours later, the golden light grew dimmer. For hours later, only the last layer of golden light remained. Everyone could clearly see that those demonic beasts were actually wooden puppets. These puppets were of different shapes and numbers. The outermost lion puppets numbered more than 300. The inner layer had dozens of ape-shaped puppets. There were a total of 13 humanoid puppets in the center. 10 of them were the size of a normal person, while the other 3 were over 10 feet tall. More importantly, all the puppets had a round light ball embedded in them. Sealed in the light ball were all kinds of cultivation resources. At the 6th hour, there was a soft crack sound, and the golden light completely shattered. At this moment, everyone was ready to charge forward. Lung Shichi stared at the puppets' every move. The moment the golden light completely shattered, he sensed a change in the lion puppets on the outermost layer. Their originally empty eyes suddenly lit up with 2 green spots of light. Then there was a series of crack sounds. The lion puppets opened their mouths and woke up. Lung Shichi's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly shouted, "Retreat." Hearing this, Yushu seemed to have thought of something and immediately gave the order. The Yushu clan immediately retreated. The other forces at the front were a little confused. Even if there were many puppets in front, they didn't look very strong. Why did they retreat? The Delta Orgi hesitated for a moment and didn't make a move. At this moment, to everyone's surprise, the hundreds of lion puppets all opened their mouths, and a black arrow appeared in their mouths. In the next moment, a total of 300 sharp arrows flew towards them. Not good. Retreat. Retreat. The cult of the Blood Sea, Thousand Mountains Alliance, and Seiji hurriedly retreated. It was a mess. However, the rain of arrows had already fallen. Screams suddenly became the main melody of this area. Fortunately, the Yushu clan retreated early. When the rain of arrows came over, most of them were blocked by the other forces. The remaining ones were blocked by Lung Shichi and the other 8 pure spirit realm cultivators. Only a few people were accidentally injured, but no one died. The Blood Moon situation was slightly better, but there were still about 10 to 20 casualties. The people from the cult of the Blood Sea, Thousand Mountains Alliance, and Seiji suffered the most. They could be said to have been hit by the rain of arrows head-on and suffered heavy casualties. A sudden volley of arrows easily took the lives of over 100 people, and even more were injured. On the contrary, the forces at the back didn't suffer any damage at all. At this moment, they were all showing expressions of schadenfreude. The fact that the previous 5 forces had forcefully occupied the front row had already caused the others to be dissatisfied. However, they were not as strong as others, so they could only grit their teeth and swallow their anger. However, it was different now. After the rain of arrows, those forces lost a lot of people. In terms of numbers, they no longer had any advantage. Since that was the case, who would give them face? The dozen or so forces at the back directly swarmed forward, and the situation suddenly went out of control. At this time, everyone only had one thought, and that was to charge forward. Blood Marshal C was furious because 30 to 40 of his subordinates were killed or injured. He took the lead and suddenly stomped his feet, creating a small pit in the ground. Then, his body flew out like a sharp arrow leaving the bow. The black spear flickered with spirit energy and thrust forward. With a pong sound, a lion-shaped puppet was instantly destroyed by his attack. Broken pieces of wood and sawdust scattered all over the ground. Blood Marshal C smashed the ball of light that fell from the puppet with one hand and took out a small white bottle. Spirit Gathering Pill. The Spirit Gathering Pill was a pill that could help Spirit Gathering Realm cultivators quickly increase their cultivation. Refining a pill was more effective than absorbing a spirit stone. Blood Marshal C curled his lips, obviously looking down on this thing. Then, he threw it to the people behind him and continued to charge forward, heading straight for the ape-shaped puppets at the back. At this time, Lung Shichi also smashed a lion-shaped puppet with a few moves and obtained an unranked spirit technique from it. He frowned slightly. At this time, a sentence appeared in his mind. Killing monsters to drop materials. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.